a team that is now in control of its own destiny. As a result of Toronto's loss yesterday, a win or a tie this afternoon will give the Montreal Alouettes third place. Much will depend on the kind of afternoon Ken Johnson enjoys. Despite losing, he's looked good in his only 2 starts in the Montreal uniform. But if his Ottawa counterpart J.C. Watts has a big day, Montreal could be out and Toronto will finish third.
CFL 81, brought to you by Canadian Pacific, owned by Canadians, working for Canadians. By Firestone Canada, maker of the 721 Fuel Fighter Radio. And by KTEL International Limited.
The final game of the Eastern Conference season as the Alouettes entertain the Rough Riders this afternoon at Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Hi, everybody. This afternoon, the Ottawa Rough Riders have an opportunity to determine their semifinal playoff opponent. George Brancato, the Ottawa head coach, has made no secret of the fact that he would prefer to play the Toronto Argonauts in next Sunday's Eastern semifinal. So as a result, I think it's safe to assume that this afternoon, the Ottawa Rough Riders will be going all out against the Montreal Alouettes. Toronto currently occupies third spot, even though they have 4 points, the same as Montreal. A win or a tie, of course, would move Montreal into third place. The reason Toronto will finish third, should Montreal lose, is the 2 games played between the 2 teams. Toronto has won the series by 5 points. Now, Leo Cahill, this afternoon, a very important addition to the Montreal Alouette roster in the person of linebacker Tom Cousineau.
Well, Don, you know that Tom Cousineau is hell when he's well, and the fans all know, really, that he's been the catalyst to that defense. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a story that Bear Bryant used to tell about Bear Bryant getting ready to go into a key game. They'd ask the Bear, they'd say, are you going to be able to stop this great running back? And the Bear's answer would always be, if he stays inside those white lines, Leroy will get him. Now, he was referring to Leroy Jordan, that great middle linebacker. Now, Cousineau has that same kind of ability to run people down. But as far as Cousineau is concerned, he's got to do more than run people down today. They've got to go after those 2 young quarterbacks at Ottawa, Watts and Starkey. They can't be expected to handle a blitz like a veteran like Ken Johnson. And speaking of Ken Johnson, he's done a great job of putting that offense together over there for the Alouettes. Johnson and Scott, as outside receivers, are always dangerous, and they can go all the way. And as inside guys, Delariva and McMahon, they're good readers, and they can also make themselves as real good targets. Now, on paper, the Owls have the edge in personnel. Don't sell them short, though, as far as the Ottawa Rough Riders are concerned. They can win. They've got a coach who likes to win and who's been there before, George Brancato. Now, all the pressure today is on Jim Eddy on the other side of the field. It's showdown at the Big O as far as Jim is concerned, and I've got Jim on the field right now. And how do you feel, Jim, going into this game?
They really are, Leo. I think we're going to have an emotion-packed football game. Our players realize the magnitude of this football game. Of course, it's a do-or-die situation as far as we're concerned. We've got to come together. I feel like our players are ready. With the acquisition of Kenny Johnson, gives us a chance. I think we're going to see the ball going across the goal line, and I think you're going to see our defense coming together with the great Tom Cousineau in the middle. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be an emotion-packed football game.
Well, I'm about as excited as you are, Jim. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
A definite air of optimism in that Montreal Alouette dressing room as they prepare to take on the Ottawa Rough Riders this afternoon. A beautiful November afternoon, a temperature of 8 degrees, and we'll return to Olympic Stadium in Montreal right after we pause for this message.
KTEL presents Charlie Pride.
Hi, I'm Charlie Pride. Here's my brand new album entitled Charlie Pride Goes.
It's the happiness of having you in a Mississippi cotton picking Dale.
I've included Mansion on the Hill, We Could, Then Who Am I, and a whole bunch of others you're going to enjoy. This is one of the best albums I've ever done.
Part of KTEL's Sound Celebration, Charlie Pride Gold. It's in stores now.
The cars they said North America would never build are at your Pontiac dealers today.
Pontiac J.
The sleek 1982 J2000 three-door hatchback, part of a new series of front-wheel drive Pontiacs. Quality that we feel stacks up against any competitive small car anywhere in the world.
Pontiac J2000. Nobody's got it like
Bill Dell is the referee for this afternoon's finale to the Eastern Conference season. The Ottawa Rough Riders visiting the Montreal Alouettes at Olympic Stadium. And, of course, the Alouettes, if they win this afternoon, will stage a rematch with the Ottawa Rough Riders next Sunday at Lansdowne Park in Ottawa. That will be the Eastern semifinal. The winner will then go on to face the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the Eastern final. Of course, if the Alouettes lose this afternoon, Ottawa's semifinal playoff opponent will be the Toronto Argonauts. Now, George Brancato has reactivated Mike Raines and Bill Mitchell for this afternoon's game. Ken Johnson, the starting quarterback for the Alouettes. This will be his third start. And despite losing, he has looked impressive in the 2 games in which he has worn a Montreal uniform. Now our national anthem. The Montreal Alouettes will be kicking off to the Ottawa Rough Riders when we return.
Let me show you one of the toughest jobs we ever did at Canadian Pacific. See this tunnel? It's a unique spiral tunnel, one of 2 we built in the Rockies in 1909. The spiral, on a gradual slope, made it more efficient to haul heavy trains from down here to up here. And it still does. We took on a tough job then to do a good job now.
Today's Canadian Pacific.
We're proud of yesterday, but we're planning for tomorrow.
Television should be more than an electronic tranquilizer. At its best as an art form, television should move you. The arts of television, experience it at its best on the one television that is itself a work of art. The Emmy Award-winning Sony Trinitron. Sony, the one and only.
For Ken Johnson, this marks his 3rd start in a Montreal Alouette uniform since being acquired in trade from the Calgary Stampeders. 49 out of 79 pass completions, a 62% average. He has 1 touchdown and 1 interception. However, the big thing with Johnson is the familiarity with his receivers with each practice, and Coach Jim Eddy is quite confident that Johnson will be ready this afternoon. Braisley is back along with Kirk to accept the kickoff from Don Sweet. Calvin Kirk fields it at his 10. Excellent return by Kirk to the 44-yard line as that hole opened up the middle, and it was Chuck McMahon who managed to make the tackle. So the Ottawa Rough Riders will enjoy pretty good field position for their first offensive series. J.C. Watts, his 4th start for the Ottawa Rough Riders, and he has some familiar receivers to throw to. Tony Gabriel looking for a career high. He needs 4 this afternoon to surpass his previous season best. J.C. Watts swinging it out to Jim Reed. Reed putting his head down and challenging Dumars at the 50. He went over top of Dumars for an extra couple of yards, and it will be 2nd and about 2 for the Ottawa Rough Riders.
Don, it looks right away like they're starting some of the things that they did last week. They're going to throw to those swing backs and try to get a good back in an open field situation and a one-on-one on a cornerback. Pretty good football.
Ottawa coming into this game after a rest, defeating Calgary in their last start. Platt looking for the first down. He will be very close to the 54-yard line, and that's as far as Ottawa had to advance. It was Tom Cousineau who came in to make the tackle.
Cousineau's heard from already, and Ottawa has started to incorporate a little of that double motion. They're sending two flankers in motion in one direction, and that time on a short yardage situation they sent the two flankers to the left and then went back to the right with the running play, which is a pretty good counter play, and it looks like they may have made the first down.
It's just a little short. It will be third down, and Coach George Brancato sends in his short yardage unit, and the Ottawa Rough Riders are going to be gambling on third and less than a yard.
I don't see George Brancato complaining any about the way they put that ball down. I thought they dropped it back a little further, but if George didn't complain, nothing's happening down there.
Third and less than a yard. The Ottawa Rough Riders trying to get to midfield. J.C. Watts keeps. He has the first down as he penetrates midfield into Montreal territory. And George Brancato will do a lot of pacing this afternoon at that Ottawa bench. Defensively, the Montreal Alouettes have a pretty solid front four. And they have made one big adjustment in the linebacking contingent as Tom Cousineau returns this afternoon. And in their secondary, they have added Charles Cornelius in a corner position. From midfield, J.C. Watts throwing intended for Kirk, incomplete.
It was a bootleg action that time, and it was just as well that he threw that ball away because the coverage was there right on top of him. One thing I think that we ought to point out right here now is that although George Brancato, that is, would like to beat the Alouettes because he doesn't want to play them again, I still think that he's going to try things like trying it on third down and doing things like that because he does have that edge and doesn't have to worry about a playoff spot. So he'll be a little bit more dangerous out there.
Second and 10 for Ottawa. Watts swinging. No, he made the fake and then tried to go back up the middle. And Keith Gary reacted well for the Alouettes and forced Ottawa into a punting situation. Keith Gary started slowly. Of course, he had some of those medical problems after being signed. But this rookie from Oklahoma has come into his own, and that's one of the reasons Jim Eddy has been smiling in the last couple of games, the play of people such as Keith Gary.
Yeah, Jim Eddy this morning when we were talking to him down there couldn't give the illusion that he was completely relaxed. He was as nervous as could be down there. I thought he was going to come apart like a Hong Kong suit there for a while.
Third down punt. Billy White Shoes Johnson at his own 6-yard line. Penalty flags fly as Johnson goes down at the 9-yard stripe. We'll return to Olympic Stadium in Montreal after we pause for this message.
Now, traction, year-round. The Firestone Trax 12 all-season radial grips rain-soaked roads. Traction bars hidden in the tread pull you through snow. For smooth, quiet driving, long-lasting Trax 12. Traction you can see. Traction 12 months a year. Trax 12, the all-season radial from Firestone.
Here's the amazing Milan cream soap, the rich, luxuriant cleansing liquid in a practical dispenser. Milan is especially blended with jojoba oil, a beauty secret found in the desert country of Arizona and Mexico, where the remarkable jojoba plant grows. From the jojoba bean comes a wondrous, natural golden oil, which leaves your skin moist, fresh, and silky. Get the one and only Milan cream soap with jojoba oil, available in an attractive decorator dispenser and refill bottle, and discover the natural beauty secret of the desert.
The Alouettes were penalized for clipping on that attempted return as Tom Cousineau takes a breather at the bench. And this might be a tough afternoon for Cousineau. He hasn't had any contact for a couple of months. Junior IU clipping on Rudy Phillips, half the distance to the goal line. 1st and 10 from their own 4. David Overstreet slashes up the middle to the 9-yard line. Ken Johnson in his 3rd start as Montreal Alouette quarterback. And in his receiving core, he has the first and third leading receivers in the Eastern Conference in Scott and Johnson. And the offensive line remains the same as it was a week ago when the Alouettes lost to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers 33-13. 2nd and 5 for the Owls from the 9. Little swing pass, incomplete. It was intended for James Scott, and the Alouettes are forced to kick it away.
You can see that Johnson is kind of playing it safe down there. He was throwing to the inside away from that coverage, and I think he was a little bit too conscious of the position on the field, and that's why he made that bad throw down there. Now, as far as the Alouettes are concerned, I think they think that they can solve this defense that Ottawa's been putting up this last couple of weeks. It was you know, it probably was unfair to expect them to do too much from that point on the field, but we'll see as the game progresses whether they're going to solve that defense or not.
Don Sweet punting from the end zone. Randy Rhino fields it at the 44. Rhino with excellent field position for the Ottawa Rough Riders as he penetrates to the 32. Lou Clare, the linebacker, came over to make the tackle.
There was a lot of speculation this week as to who was going to do the punting for the Alouettes, and Coach Eddie told us yesterday that he just had a kick down between McGrath, Bono, and Sweet, and Sweet won it, and that's why Sweet's out there doing the kicking today.
1st and 10 from the 32. Watts flipping it off. A penalty flag goes down. It almost looks as though it will be a holding infraction against Ottawa. Glenn Weir was applying pressure, and so was Keith Gary.
Looked like holding on Phillips there.
Holding number 67, Ottawa.
Yes, indeed. Rudy Phillips was guilty of the holding call.
All right, here it is right here, number 67, and he's, no question about it, he's trying to tackle him.
Rudy Phillips, a big fella, 6'3", out of North Texas State, signed as a free agent by the Ottawa Rough Riders. With the penalty, it's 1st and 20 now. Swinging it out to Sam Platt. Platt was tripped up by Luke Clare. The ball pops loose, recovered by the Alouettes, but the play had been whistled down before the ball squirted away from Platt.
I'll tell you, they're giving Watts and those swingbacks a lot of room on the outside. He was late getting that ball out there, and it was a pretty good move there, getting past the defender. The ball came out, and it looked like he was down before the ball came out. It was a good call by the official, but those swing passes are going to kill Montreal unless they can make that adjustment.
From the 36, here's the safety blitz, and getting him is Butler. They were blitzing the defensive back, and Greg Butler got to quarterback J.C. Watts on a 2nd and 14 situation, and they are now backed up to their own 45-yard line.
Here it is right here. You see number 45 on the blitz right here coming in there, and he's got a clear shot, it looked like. But from the outside, Greg Butler came number 1, and there was just nobody on him at all because the back had picked up the inside people coming on the penetration.
So that moves the Rough Riders out of field goal range. The 3rd down punt by Jerry Organ trying to put it out of bounds. It's fielded by Johnson at the 2-yard line. They're trying to set up the block. Johnson has dropped at the 1. Ian Beckstead was downfield to make the tackle.
Well, this is the 2nd bad field position as far as the Alouettes are concerned. They've got to be very cautious down here because down here when you make a mistake, it's a costly one.
Well, again, the Ottawa defenders will have Montreal backed up to its own line. Raines is returning to the lineup after being out for a game. William Mitchell comes back at that middle linebacking position, and the Ottawa secondary consists of 5 imports. From their own 1, the Alouettes, 1st and 10. Overstreet runs into a pile of people at the 3. Very difficult, I would think, Leo, the quarterback, and we have penalty flags flying. Ken Johnson doesn't really have a great deal of room to operate on his first two offensive series.
He sure doesn't, Don. And it looked to me like the defender that time was the last guy to make the swing down there. And if I'm not mistaken, it looked like the defense might be the people who are going to get the penalty, although maybe the referee saw the initial hit and will just call it off on both sides.
Number 20, Montreal.
David Overstreet with the objectionable conduct penalty.
Well, I don't know what he did that was objectionable, but I saw a big defensive man in a white jersey hit him in the helmet after the play was over, so I thought the referees caught that.
That moves the ball back to the 2-yard line. Really doesn't hurt them all that much. Half the distance to the goal line, and they had only moved out to the 4. Johnson throwing for Johnson. They've got a first down. Can he get away at the sidelines? No. He is hauled down by Randy Rhino. That almost was a touchdown play for the Alouettes.
And this shows you right here the difference in experience. Johnson comes back. He's in his own end zone here where, you know, Ferragamo early in the season would have been scared to death throwing in here because he didn't know the defenses. Johnson read the defense and got it out there, and it was just a great play by him. And it was thrown right on the end zone. This is the kind of a break they need early in the ball game to get under track.
They are now at the 24, 1st and 10, the Alouettes scrimmage. Overstreet out to the 30-yard line with 8:04 remaining in the opening quarter. Larry Brune from his defensive back position came up to make the tackle. We remind you that this program is copyrighted and is strictly for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, retransmission, or exhibition in whole or in part without the express written consent of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation is strictly prohibited. 2nd and 4 for the Alouettes. Johnson over the middle to Scott. First down, Montreal. The ball at the 48.
You can see by Scott right here the amount of respect that he gets when he comes down there. They back off of him quite a bit, and he just bends it right to the inside. They'll hit both of these outside receivers on post patterns a lot because those defensive backs are afraid of them going the distance right down the sidelines on a streak pattern.
From their own 48, Overstreet trying to go inside, and he has a gain of about 4. It will be 2nd and 6. 6 minutes and 49 seconds remain in a scoreless opening quarter.
Early in World War II, bombers were desperately needed in Britain. In the Canadian Pacific, we thought we could help. In a hectic race with time, we helped organize a transatlantic ferry service, and on November 10th, 1940, the first of many flights of bombers took off for Britain. The next year, the service was taken over by the Royal Air Force and became the world-famous Ferry Command.
Today is Canadian Pacific.
We're proud of yesterday, but we're planning for tomorrow.
Well, they ruled that Overstreet was down at the 51, so it's only a pickup of 3. It's 2nd and 7 for the Alouettes. Intended for Vetro on the sidelines, off his fingertips. It will be 3rd and 7 Montreal from their own 51.
Well, one thing they've done here is really improve their field position. With a good punt here now, they've got themselves down at the other end of the field and at least can breathe a little bit now. So the way their defense is playing, they're going after Ottawa pretty good. They're doing what I said before the show started, that they're going to go after those young quarterbacks and see if they can harass them a little bit and have them lose their poise. Now, if they do that, they've got a chance to force them into some early game mistakes here, and if they do, they've got a chance to put some points on the board now.
3rd down kick by Don Sweet. He hit a good one. Randy Rhino backs up to his own 7. Trying to set up the return to the right. Some blocking forms over there. And Rhino with a good return to the 28-yard line. A kick of 52 yards by Don Sweet, a return of 21 by Randy Rhino, and Mark LaSalle was the man who came over to make the tackle. Well, of course, for many years, Randy Rhino did A fine job of returning punts for the Montreal Alouettes, and he's doing equally as good a job this year for Ottawa.
Sweet's very deliberate now. He better hurry it a little bit more on his punt, but I guess he checked it out and made sure that they weren't coming with any kind of a blitz. Kirk made the first block in there, and then the Montreal team zeroed in and got him.
Back to the live action, and Junior Ayu responded to the attempted draw by Sam Platt. And it's a loss on the play of 2, maybe 3 yards. This Montreal defensive unit is fired up this afternoon, and I have no doubts that the return of Tom Cousineau has made a big difference in there.
Psychologically, that means all the difference in the world having him in there.
On second down, J.C. Watts looking for Gabriel, incomplete. Gabriel attempting to extend his consecutive games catching mark to 137. Hampton and Dumars were over to defend against Gabriel, and there's the man we've been talking about on a number of occasions, Tom Cousineau. He's only played parts of 3 ball games this season.
I was talking to him last week when he was in street clothes. He's a very impressive looking young man, and the thing about him is that he looks like the kind of a kid that never gets out of shape. You know, he may lay off and not play for a while, but he looked mean and lean when I saw him last week, and he's playing like that out there today.
Jerry Organ's punt fielded by Johnson at the 45. Johnson is down at the 52. Larry Bruin was there to make the tackle, and this is the best field position to start an offensive series that the Alouettes have enjoyed so far in the game. That was a 41-yard kick and a return of 8.
Well, now we're going to see, because Montreal has got good field position here for the first time, we're going to see if what Coach Eddie told us yesterday is true. He's not overawed by that defense that Ottawa is playing, and Ottawa has got a defense that they've played pretty well the last couple of games and a lot of variations, but he thinks that they can run against it especially, and we're going to see right here if they can run against it, and it's going to be more difficult to pass against it.
4:44 the time left in this opening quarter. It's scoreless here at Olympic Stadium in Montreal. 1st and 10, Montreal. They are at their own 52. Stop wide right, Johnson out to the left. Pass is complete down the sidelines. Peter Dallariva goes out of bounds at the 45 of Ottawa. Tackled by Rick Sovieta.
Pressure there from Greg Marshall coming in late there, but he gets the ball off, and boy, I'll tell you, that was awfully close. That's why they say in football that you win or lose by inches. If he'd have been a little bit closer, he could have picked that off and gone the other way. But Dallariva keeps his eye on the ball, made the catch, and they're at a first down now, moving the ball.
1st and 10 at the 45, inside with Overstreet again. Well, Jim Eddy may have felt he could run against the Ottawa Rough Riders, but so far, Leo, he's not having much success.
There was no room in the end that time, Don. You know, there's 2 good front fours out there. Both the Ottawa front four and the Montreal front four are very capable as far as that run is concerned. You know, a good defensive man is not like an offensive man that needs a lot of time and a lot of effort and teaching. We used to say that a good defensive man, all he had to do was take 2 steps and throw a fit. That's just about what these guys are doing.
2nd and 9 after a gain of 1 by Overstreet from the 44. Little swing pass to Overstreet, looking for that screen. The block, he's got it. To the 22-yard line. Billy Hardy cut the feet out from under the rookie from Oklahoma.
Just another little swing pass out here, feeling the pressure. Gets a good block out there by his center, Glenn Keeble, and does an excellent job of running, and Hardy knocks his feet out from under him, but the Alouettes are on the move.
A gain of 21 on that little swing pass. Overstreet wide to the left this time. LaSalle, the lone setback. LaSalle gets the call. He's got some room. He's got another first down to the 6-yard line. Rick Sovieta made the tackle. We have 2:39 remaining in this opening quarter. The Alouettes look as though they'll score.
GMC is a big name in trucks with a lot behind it. Like the new GMC C1500 pickup, which offers a new optional 6.2-liter diesel engine designed exclusively for trucks. And GMC's new S15, the little rig, with a standard 4 or available with an optional V6 engine that can deliver economy and be quick about it. GMC, the name tells you right up front, trucks are what we're all about.
On this Canadian destroyer, about 250 men work as a team with some of the most advanced electronic equipment in the world, helping to keep Canada strong. If you've got what it takes, there may be a future for you in Maritime Command, full-time or part-time.
There's no life like it. There's no life like it. No, there's no life like it.
Ask us about you. You'll find us under Recruiting in the Yellow Pages.
We remind you that tonight at 8 o'clock in the CBC television network, the 10th anniversary of Canada's multiculturalism is celebrated. It's an entertainment extravaganza, super special, all for one. Also, tonight at 10, Shadows of a Horseman, Part 3 of On Guard for Thee. Check your local listings for the telecast time in your area. First and goal for the Alouettes. Overstreet, fighting for the goal line, is there!
In a game like this, I can't tell you how much it means to a team to score that first touchdown, and the Alouettes did it with a good bunch of plays going down there. This is a short yardage situation, power type formation with the two lead backs going in there blocking ahead. Overstreet shows great balance right here. He breaks a couple of tackles and doesn't stop till he gets in the end zone. And that's a big play at this stage of the game, getting that first score.
Don Sweet with the point after attempt as Jerry DiTilio holds, and the Alouettes lead at 7-0. You know, Overstreet has been severely criticized at various times during the course of the season for the number of fumbles that he has made. However, if you check his record, I think in recent games, with the exception of that very important loss to the Toronto Argonauts, he has been hanging on to the ball much better.
He sure has. And, you know, he was a first-round draft choice, and you know, they don't make that many mistakes down there on first-round draft choices. The thing that I heard from Coach Eddie was that at Oklahoma, where he played his football, they run that option-style football, and their coaches tell them down there that, you know, they're going to have some fumbles because they put that ball in the air on the option stuff so much, and not to be too concerned if the ball is fumbled. And maybe that's a carryover into professional football, that he's a little loose with the ball, but they've got him right now thinking about holding on to that ball.
Don Sweet preparing to kick off for the Alouettes with 2:17 left in this opening quarter. Calvin Kirk, number 3, and Carl Brazeley, number 7, are back to receive. Again, the kickoff goes to Kirk. He goes back to his own 4. And Kirk is caught by Marshall at the 20-yard line, throwing back to the 19. A 61-yard kickoff by Don Sweet, and the return by Calvin Kirk of 17.
Tempers are a little flaring out there. It looks like there's a little more competition in this game that would meet the eye.
Well, there's a call of unnecessary roughness against the Montreal Alouettes.
Well, that's a lot better than throwing somebody out of a game like this, just walking it off. I hate to see a couple of these guys use bad judgment in a game like this and get thrown out of the game.
I believe it was Gene Beliveau who was tagged with the unnecessary roughness call. And Ottawa now with a first down at the 35. For Platt, he's caught immediately by Hampton. And it will be 2nd and 10 from the 35. Offensively, the Alouettes this afternoon appear to be prepared for almost anything the Ottawa Rough Riders are going to try and throw at them, Leo.
Yeah, it really looks that way, and it looks like they're higher than Georgia Pines, these Alouettes out here this afternoon. Ottawa's got to get moving here. They're going to get another score on them.
7-0. The Alouettes are leading it. J.C. Watt can't find a receiver. He's being chased and finally finds a man in the open, Calvin Kirk. And Kirk still struggling and fighting. He has the first down and into Montreal territory at the 54. Dumars and Marshall finally made the tackle, but J.C. Watts was running around there looking for a receiver before he spotted Kirk.
Well, this is something that normally a rookie quarterback doesn't have this presence of mind. He ran up toward the line of scrimmage, and he saw the penetration there by Scott, and he looked downfield, which is the important thing. Saw Kirk coming back to the ball, helping him out, gave Kirk the ball, and as a result made a good gain in the first down.
Back to the live action, Jim Reed with a quick opener up the middle to the 45 of Montreal. Steve Jelly made the tackle. Very close to another first down for the Ottawa Rough Riders. 21 seconds now remain in this opening quarter. It will be second and less than a yard. The ball just across the 45. Sam Platt has the first down as he drives to the 42 with 2 seconds showing on the clock. The ball doubled, recovered by Montreal. Well, 2 seconds still remain on the clock. However, referee Bill Dell has indicated that is the end of the opening quarter. George Brancato quite can't understand what has happened there, and will return with the second quarter right after this.
Gentlemen, please welcome AC and the Delcos.
Spark plugs and batteries, whatever your tune-up needs. Please don't break my heart with just any old part. It should be Delco, AC Delco, AC Delco. Shooby-doo-wop-bop, shooby-dooby-doo-wop, AC Delco, D-E-L-C-O.
On July 22nd, 1910, this message crackled out from the Canadian Pacific ship Montreal. Has strong suspicions that London cellar murderer and accomplice are amongst passengers. Accomplice dressed as boy. Voice, manner, and build, undoubtedly a girl. Captain Kendall's suspicions were correct, and it was the very first use of radio to apprehend the criminal.
Today's Canadian Pacific.
We're proud of yesterday, but we're planning for tomorrow.
Broken truck.
Brenda Lee and the Oak Ridge Boys headline K-Tel's Super Country 81.
Oh, darling, how I love to lay
The year's biggest hits.
What a drinking donkey.
The year's hottest star. Super Country 81. Part of K-Tel's Sound Celebration. Super Country 81. It's in stores now.
George Brancato upset with that final play of the opening quarter that saw Sam Platt fumble and Montreal recover. The home run throw for Scott. Oh, just at the last minute, knocked down by Billy Hardy. Scott had maneuvered in behind the defensive back, and Billy Hardy came across to help out and knocked away what would have been an almost certain Montreal touchdown.
It looks like Johnson goes back here and just throws that ball about as far as he can. He really let it out that time, and Hardy, if you throw a pass that far, you can come an awful long way, as evidenced by how Hardy did that. He must have come 15 yards that time to knock that ball down and make a fine save.
Came over to help Jerome Stanton, and Billy Hardy saved what almost certainly would have been an Alouette touchdown. Johnson to Scott, the attempt, 2nd and 10. Oh, way offside at the line of scrimmage is Nikaraki, the big tight end. He was 5 yards downfield, and now there's nylon all over the artificial turf at Olympic Stadium.
There's nothing more embarrassing than be 5 yards down the field.
Number 79.
Looked like he was part of the defense.
Nikaraki is a big target for a quarterback to throw to, 6'6", 236 pounds, and if he gets 5 yards downfield before the ball is snapped, he has a decided advantage. On 2nd down, inside with Overstreet to the 40-yard line.
That's a case there of second down and pretty good yardage to go. They think they're going to come with that wide pass rush. And anytime you come with a wide pass rush, you're vulnerable in there on the quick trap, and that's what they tried that time. They tried to get up inside thinking that they were going to come with that wide rush.
So Rhino and Kirk go back for the third down punt. Rhino 21, Kirk 3. Don Sweet continuing to handle the punting chores for the Alouettes at his own 26. Again, we remind you of the situation facing the Alouettes. They must win or tie this afternoon to advance to the Eastern semifinal.
And Ottawa goes with the return left that time. You can see them setting it up, and here goes Rhino, and this guy is dangerous.
Well, as we said earlier, Montreal fans are well aware of his capabilities on that punt return unit. And Mark LaSalle finally trapped Randy Rhino, but not before he returned at 21 yards.
If you could get a look at that line, making their first thrust in there, and then going back and setting it up on the left, and Rhino just follows that setup right there. He picks his way very well. There's nothing this guy liked better than to score a touchdown on a long punt return against his old teammates.
Ottawa 1st and 10. The Rough Riders at their own 42. Watts incomplete over the head of Tony Gabriel. It will be 2nd and 10 from the 42 with 13:30 left to play in the second quarter. The Montreal Alouettes leading by a score of 7-0. Well, of course, yesterday, the BC Lions knocked the Saskatchewan Roughriders out of the playoff picture in the Western Conference. They will now face the Winnipeg Blue Bombers next Sunday in Winnipeg in the Western Conference semifinal. This time, Kirk has got it. He could score on this one if he gets a block. Pat Stoka was unable to take Steve Jelly out of the play, and Jelly was able to move Kirk back into the play, and it was Dumars who hauled him down. Well, that's twice now. When Watts has been in trouble, he's gone to Kirk for a big pass completion.
And what Kirk is doing is he's getting downfield, and when he sees Watts in trouble, he's coming back to the football, and he's using that great open field speed that he's got once he catches the ball to elude tacklers, and it's turned out to be quite a combination between he and Watts.
1st and 10 now. Ottawa at the 15 of Montreal. Tony Gabriel has got it, and he is down inside the 5. And Big Gabe extends that string now to 137 games. He's indicating to the bench just how much further they have to go for a first down. It's less than a yard.
George Brancato is sending a substitute in right here. I don't know whether George is going to do this or not, but it'd be a great place because they're close enough to go for it on third down. It'd be a great place to come with an action-type pass where they look like they're going to run for the short yardage and throw off the run. There it is,
Penalty
right
flag
there.
goes down. The
There
pass
it
is
is, right
complete
there.
for a touchdown to Jim Reed, but there is a penalty flag at the line of scrimmage. I think it's against Montreal.
And Don, that's what I called. Once in a while I get lucky here, and I call a play that looks like it's going to work, but that's just a perfect place for it. It's a short yardage situation. They're close enough down there to go for it on the next down, and here it is right here.
Montreal, number
Take the run
76
in here,
is
right
declined.
here.
Touchdown count.
Just come right out here and pitch it out there. Nobody near him. He catches the ball and goes in the end zone standing up. Just a great play with Jim Reed catching the ball.
Big touchdown for the Wilfrid Laurier graduate. And Jerry Organ with an opportunity now to tie the game at 7.
Got a game on our hands.
And the point after deadlocks the score at Montreal 7 and Ottawa 7. We'll be back with the Ottawa kickoff after this.
It's got to be just right. It's got to be just great. It's a job for nobody else but me. Me and my workmate. Me and my workmate. Together we're great.
You've got it made with Black & Decker.
Sunday night, All for One, a unique musical review on CBC, saluting Canada's multicultural heritage in a one-hour super special. Some of Canada's finest young performers entertain in an original musical production, a refreshing and exciting look at our country, and it's all for you. Watch All for One Sunday night at 8:30 in Newfoundland. Super special on CBC.
Well, immediately following today's football game, stay tuned for the 77th annual Santa Claus Parade from Toronto. The hosts for this year's festivities are one of my favorites, Oscar the Grouch from Sesame Street, and the popular performing trio, Sharon, Lois, and Bram. The Santa Claus Parade, immediately following the football game on the CBC television network. Jerry Organ to kick off. Don Vetro starts out from his 11-yard line, setting the return up the middle. However, the Ottawa Rough Riders responded, and the tackle is made by Sovieta at the 32. He had help from Reed. Rick Sovieta had a big game when the Ottawa Rough Riders clinched second place in the Eastern Conference 2 weeks ago by defeating the Calgary Stampeders. He does quite a job in those special teams, Leo, for the Ottawa Rough Riders.
Oh, yeah, he's one of the best in the league. I remember the last game that we saw over in Ottawa against Calgary on a real bad field. He was making open field tackles all over the place. His aggressiveness shows when he goes downfield.
The Alouettes at their own 32. Swing pass to Johnson. Caught immediately at the 30-yard line. A loss of 2. Larry Brune was there.
Johnson lines up that time in a tandem behind the inside receiver, goes out to accept the, it's almost a long screen pass to the outside right there, but it was covered very well. Now, they gave some opposite motion in the backfield that time, hoping they'd catch him in man for man and kind of to foul up the coverage, but they're sitting back there in a zone. As soon as the ball was covered, they just closed in and recovered on it. You know, that's a play like that's not nearly that effective against his own defense.
2nd and 12 now for the Alouettes. Overstreet taking the little swing pass for a first down. He's up to the 44, stopped by Carl Braisley. David Overstreet, one of the leading candidates for the Shenley Award as Rookie of the Year in the CFL.
Well, Overstreet looks this afternoon like the guy that they hoped that he would be all season long, and once he gets close to being tackled in there, you see him tuck that ball in, put his head down, and go for that extra yardage. That's encouraging as far as their coaching staff's concerned.
1st and 10, Montreal. The Alouettes at their own 44. 10:30 remaining in this first half. That pass was deflected and then intercepted by Larry Brune. And the Ottawa Rough Riders will scrimmage 1st and 10 at the 47 of the Alouettes. That pass by Johnson was deflected at the line of scrimmage.
It wasn't a poorly thrown ball. It was just that Mike Raines got his hand up there, big Mike Raines, and deflected it. And Brune was just on his back almost, not in a position to make a great play at all, but the ball came right to him. He picked it up and made the interception. As a result, Ottawa has the football.
The Rough Riders now, 1st and 10 at the 47 of Montreal. The ball is fumbled in the exchange from center. Who's got it? Ottawa managed to recover. The ball never really in the possession of quarterback J.C. Watts. And in that pileup of players, J.C. Watts was able to dive in and get the football back. J.C. Watts really thrown to the wolves, you might say, in his first real start in the CFL against the Edmonton Eskimos about a month ago on Thanksgiving weekend. However, he responded well, and they're hoping for more big things, and he has responded again this afternoon. This pass to Calvin Kirk. Cousineau and Butler made the tackle, and this has been a favorite combination for the Rough Riders this afternoon. Watts to Kirk.
I'm very impressed by the poise of this young man here. He looked down there and he split those defenders and got the ball in there to Kirk, and Kirk almost broke the tackle and got away.
First down, Ottawa at the 26 of Montreal. Pressure from Butler. The ball is fumbled. It's loose and picked up by, finally picked up by Montreal. I believe they're calling it a forward pass.
Well, Don, I'm going to have to take deference to that right there. We're going to see the replay here in just a moment, hopefully. But that definitely, to me, was a fumble. It looked like a fumble anyhow. We'll see right here. He has a notion to throw here, but then he tucks the ball in. Well, he did. He did try to throw his... if anything, it probably should have been intentional grounding, but he did try to throw the football.
So it's 2nd and 10 from the 26 for the Rough Riders as they get a reprieve. Draw play with Jim Reed. He gets to the 20-yard line, about 4 yards away from the first down. Hampton and Cousineau were in on the tackle, and the Ottawa field goal unit comes on. A chance for the Rough Riders to take the lead for the first time this afternoon. The kick will come from the 28-yard line. Avery will hold as Oregon tries for 3. It's good. And we have 8 minutes remaining in the first half with the Ottawa Rough Riders leading by a score of 10-7.
In 1911, at Canadian Pacific, we began what was then the largest irrigation project in North America. In southern Alberta, in an area of nearly 2,000 square miles, we built the Bassano Dam and 2,500 miles of irrigation canals and ditches. Our purpose was simple. It was to turn 200,000 acres green.
Today's Canadian Pacific.
We're proud of yesterday, but we're planning for tomorrow.
Well, Tom Cousineau has been getting a lot of work defensively for the Alouettes, and he has been in on a number of tackles already in the first half of this ball game. The Alouettes 1st and 10 from the 35. Intended for Overstreet. He could not hang on. So it will be 2nd and 10, Montreal at the 35. 7:49 now remaining in this first half. It's a 10-7 game in favor of Ottawa. Johnson looking over to the bench perhaps for a little help, and then conferring with Billy Whiteshoes Johnson as they move into that huddle. Now James Scott goes out wide to the right. On 2nd and 10. Johnson throwing for the sidelines. Vetro trying to make the catch. He would have been out of bounds anyway. And once again, Montreal will be forced into a punting situation. Glenn Cook was over covering on Dom Vetro. And both sides have been shuffling people in and out of the lineup. Calvin Kirk and Randy Rhino dropping back. Don Sweet punting on 3rd down for Montreal. The Alouettes on their first couple of offensive series were deep in their own zone. Then the next time they got the ball in good field position, they moved for a touchdown. However, that Ottawa defensive unit has stymied them since then. And Montreal has to be aware now of the potential punt return that Randy Rhino and Calvin Kirk have done such a good job of so far in this ball game. It's Rhino again. Missing the first tackle from Belleville, and Rhino down the sidelines has some room once more. To the 41 of the Montreal Alouettes, finally tackled by William Hampton. A return of 33 after a kick of 39. Well, Jim Eddy at halftime will certainly be forced into making some adjustments for the Alouettes in an attempt to solve the job that Rhino is doing on those punt returns by Ottawa.
There's nothing as discouraging at this point of the game when you're really trying to get back in the game is let a couple of those punt returns go.
And this will discourage you as well. That quick look-in pass to Jim Reed, and he is down to the 22. Lou Claire and Steve Jelly made the tackle.
That's where they put Reed up on the line of scrimmage, and Watts just comes back and sees that he's uncovered. Just saw him coming off the line of scrimmage there. As soon as he saw him uncovered, lead him into the inside and give him the football. He took the ball, made a nice gainer out of it, but it looks like he got hurt on it.
Yes, Jim Reed went back to the Ottawa huddle and then went down on one knee. He may have been winded when he fell and was tackled. Trying to run it off as he heads to that Ottawa bench. Our spotter, Art Darch, informs that Lou Claire appeared to get a pretty good shoulder in on Reed and making the tackle.
He looks like he's walking pretty good over on the sideline, so I think he's going to be all right.
Got a glimpse of the people who have been nominated for Shenley Awards wearing the uniform of the Ottawa Rough Riders. Second ballot should be coming out next week. Gabriel, his second catch of the afternoon, a gain of about 8. Gabriel's best previous year for pass receptions was 76 when he caught 72. He came into this game with 69. He has 2. He is now at 71. So this could be a personal best as far as Big Gabe is concerned.
Comes lumbering off that line of scrimmage and just turns out. And one thing that Watts knows is if he throws that ball any place close to this guy, he'll get it. And one thing that the defense knows, they better get a hold of him and get a hold of him real tight.
Second and 2, Ottawa. The Rough Riders lead by 3. End zone pass. Incomplete. Calvin Kirk, the intended receiver, being covered by Jim Marshall. And Leo, I thought Kirk did an excellent job there in running against Marshall. He knew the ball was coming, but he didn't put his hands up until the last instant.
And we're going to get a look at it right here, and you're right here. He takes advantage of every stride that he makes, and then just that hand gets up there just a little bit. And sometimes they call things like that face guarding, but in that case, I think he made contact with the ball before it got to the player.
Well, we've been informed that Jim Reed took a shot in his leg on that hit by Lou Claire, and it could be a Charlie horse problem. The field goal by Oregon is good. The Ottawa Rough Riders lead 13-7 with 5:10 left to play in this first half. The Montreal Alouettes, under the direction of Coach Jim Eddy, have elected to scrimmage at the 35 rather than have the Ottawa Rough Riders kick off after that successful field goal by Jerry Organ.
I'll tell you what Ottawa does with that 6 deep people and changing their picture all the time. It doesn't look like it's too formidable, but by the time you get done taking the ball the length of the field, you make mistakes and they just hold you off that scoring.
Overstreet fighting his way out to the 43. Mike Raines, the defensive tackle, and Rhino, the safety, combined their defensive efforts to bring Overstreet down.
There's Coach Eddy on the sidelines, and he's talking to Kuzno there, and he's telling him what he has to do to tighten things up in there when he gets in there. And as I said before, with the running attack, you can run in there and make yourself some substantial gains against that 44 defense that Ottawa uses. But by the time you get done putting it all together, you've got to get in field position to kick the ball or score, and it takes you a long time to do it.
On second down, Overstreet gets the first down. He is out to the 48. Brune and Brazeley were there for the stop on behalf of the Ottawa Rough Riders.
You know, if you have the patience to stay after the running game and to sustain the ball down the field, a lot of times you can control the ball long enough to really get some points on the board. But sooner or later, all quarterbacks, even veterans like Johnson, get to the point where they don't have that patience, and they throw the ball deep, and then they lose ground.
Well, the Rough Riders were going after Ken Johnson on that one. They got to him, but I think they may have moved in advance of the play.
I don't think Ken Johnson knew whether he should hand off to one of his guys or whether...
Offside Ottawa, number 66.
Greg Marshall was offside in the play. So it will be 1st and 5. Marshall was into that Montreal backfield just too quickly.
I think if Johnson would have handed off to Marshall on that one, Donnie would have scored. The other way.
Well, there's no doubt that the Ottawa Rough Riders were going after Ken Johnson on that play. 3:26 is the time left in this first half. First down over. Now 5 yards to go for Montreal. Throwing it up there for Billy Johnson, incomplete. It was over his head, and he was being covered by Sutton. So it's now 2nd and 5. The ball is at the 54.
Every once in a while, when you throw that deep one down there, boy, you scare those cornerbacks, and then you can come back with that sideline pass and get your first down.
$7-0 was the first quarter score in favor of the Alouettes. However, Ottawa has come back with 13 unanswered points in this second quarter. The give is to Overstreet. Penalty flags are down. Overstreet is to the 50 of Ottawa. It should be a first down, but there is a penalty on the play, and we'll be back to interpret it right after we pause for this message.
Filters and oil, alignment and brakes, shocks, batteries, and tune-ups. At Firestone, when you come in for service, that's exactly what you get. Qualified mechanics and name brand parts. And when we say your car will be ready, it'll be ready and right at Firestone.
Now that's service.
KTEL presents Charlie Pride.
Hi, I'm Charlie Pride. Here's my brand new album entitled Charlie Pride Goes.
It's the happiness of having you in a Mississippi cotton picking deal.
I've included Mansion on the Hill, We Could, then Who Am I, and a whole bunch of others you're going to enjoy. This is one of the best albums I've ever done.
Part of KTEL's Sound Celebration. Charlie Pride Gold. It's in stores now.
At halftime, we'll have the CFL in action, featuring highlights of the games involving Hamilton and Toronto, Saskatchewan and BC played yesterday. We'll also have first half highlights with Leo Cahill and a look at this afternoon's first half stats. And the stats will include a penalty against the Montreal Alouettes, a legal procedure, the call, wiping out the gain by Overstreet, and presenting Montreal with a 2nd and 10 play now from the 49. Intended for James Scott. And the Ottawa Rough Riders have done a pretty good job this afternoon, double covering the 2 wide receivers, Leo.
Yeah, and when they get those 6 guys dropped back there and those linebackers, boy, there's an awful lot of people in that secondary, and it's hard to find an open spot. And about the time you think you've got an open spot, you throw it in there, and somebody like Brazeley comes over and almost makes an interception.
Sweet has a pretty good average this afternoon, 43.5, the result of 4 punts. However, the Ottawa Rough Riders also have a pretty good return average, thanks to the work of this man, Randy Rhino. He runs it back to the 31. Gene Beliveau made the tackle with help from Dom Vetro. And with 2:29 left to play in the first half, the Ottawa Rough Riders will be scrimmaging just across their own 30-yard line. The Alouettes, as we have pointed out before, must win or tie this afternoon to extend their season beyond today. Tony Gabriel could become the 14th receiver in the CFL this year to hit 1,000 yards. An indication of the pass-oriented game that exists in the CFL.
It looks like Randy Rhino is limping off an awful loss as far as Ottawa is concerned.
J.C. Watts hands off to Reed up the middle for a pickup of a couple, stopped by Glenn Weir. We talked about the number of 1,000-yard receivers in the CFL. The most in any previous year was 5, and that only once in 1972. J.C. Watts takes off and runs for an Ottawa first down, but I think it's going to be called back, the result of a holding call against Ottawa.
Holding number 68, Ottawa.
Val Belcher was guilty of the holding infraction. He had a grip on Doug Scott, the defensive tackle, who was trying to get through.
Going to get a look at it right here. Starts back, and there he is right there. He's got a hold of the jersey. That's Belcher. He's got a hold of Doug Scott. Wiped out a real nice gain.
Back to live action, trying to swing it off to Sam Platt, incomplete. Even had he grabbed that ball, I don't think he would have gone very far because Glenn Weir was draped all over him. There's Randy Rhino at that Ottawa bench. He went limping off after his last punt return. 100 yards already this afternoon on 5 returns.
Don, you can see that it's a hamstring, and if that hamstring popped on Randy, he's not going to be back in that ball game. He's reaching back the back of his leg, and it certainly looks like a hamstring. I wouldn't be surprised to see Montreal come with the blitz this time on this, trying to get at this punt. They haven't done it yet this afternoon. Well, they got the return on, the return right.
Dumars will try and run it back for Montreal. He has to reverse his field. He fumbles the football. Ottawa has recovered. With 1:47 left in the half, the Ottawa Rough Riders get an opportunity to add to their 13-7 lead.
This was definitely a return right. He started over to his right, but there was leakage, penetration in there, and he had to turn back. When he turned back, Mitchell was in there to turn him back, and when he turned back in there, he lost, you know, as far as his momentum was concerned, his balance, he just lost it. The ball flipped up in the air. That happens when you're going one way and then change directions and don't concentrate on that football.
On first down, Watts is caught, and he's dropped at the line of scrimmage. Glenn Weir, along with Keith Gary, were both there. It was Weir who actually had J.C. Watts by the ankle. Weir, the veteran of that Montreal defensive unit. He's been around for a long time. Some people have thought that perhaps Glenn had designs on packing it in. He said no, he's going to be back again next year. Swing pass to James Reed. He's brought down at the 40, stopped about 2 yards shy of a first down by William Hampton and Tom Cousineau. That Reed puts his head down and takes on those linebackers, doesn't he?
He sure does, and it looked to me like he was going to make that first down when he put the head down and drove in there, but Cousineau come in there and closed on him, made the tackle. They've got a field goal attempt here from about probably close to 50 yards, 48 yards.
Well, it's within Jerry Organ's range. His longest of the season has been from 52 yards out. This one will be kicked from 47 yards away. Leo, you suggested that perhaps Randy Rhino had a pulled hamstring. We've been informed that that is the problem. The kick is wide. Dumars coming out at the end zone, and he gets out to the 1 yard line before he's thrown back. I'm not so sure if I was Jim Eddy that I wouldn't have given up a single point there, Leo.
Well, they're just putting them in a jackpot down there by bringing that ball out to the 1-yard line. And what does 1 point mean at this stage of the game with a half to play and it's 13-7? At worst, it would have been 14-7. Maybe at the end of a ball game, you can say 1 point means a lot, but under those circumstances, it could end up being 3 points or even 7 points.
Not only that, with a single point, the ball would have come out to the point of last scrimmage, which was the 40-yard line. So they would have had good field position. As it is now, they are back at their own 1-yard line. Going for the bundle with James Scott. It's almost picked off by Carl Braisley. Johnson just reared back and threw it as far as he could. However, Braisley had good coverage on James Scott. Of course, had that been successful and gone for a touchdown, that would have tied a league record. That's as far as you can throw a pass and complete it for a touchdown, 109 yards. And had Scott been able to move in behind Braisley, well, he was long gone. But Braisley was with him stride for stride. 47 seconds remain in this first half. And unless Montreal can get a first down here, Ottawa could be in position to score again before the half ends. They might score now. No, Johnson gets away. Johnson throws it back to Scott. He's got a first down at the 16-yard line. It was Seymour who momentarily appeared to have a grip on Ken Johnson. Looked as though he was going to drop him for a safety touch. But that was a dangerous kind of throw that Johnson unloaded as well. It could have been picked off.
Well, it looked very much here like he was going to be caught right there by Marshall. Or it was Scott I'm talking about, and he goes and throws the ball against the grain, which is a very difficult pass to catch, and gets the ball completed. And we talked to Jim Eddy yesterday, and he said that when Johnson gets in trouble, a lot of people don't think he can run, but he can run out of trouble, and he certainly exhibited at that time. It looked like he was caught for all intent and purposes.
Well, on that last play, Mark LaSalle on the receiving end, however, no gain, and Montreal has called a timeout with 27 seconds left.
When the sun rises tomorrow, it will shine a little brighter for needy families around the world if you help them through care today. Fewer children will wake up hungry. More families will receive medical assistance. Even more young people will learn to read and write. Through care, you can help to provide needy people with the means to work their way out of poverty. But the result of your kindness will not end there. Year after year, the school you help them build will continue to educate children. The health services you help them improve will continue to heal the sick. And the agricultural facilities you help to develop will continue to provide life-giving food. Your contribution to care today will help needy people for years to come. Send your check or money order to Care Canada, Department 2, 1312 Bank, Ottawa, K1S 5H7.
The Alouettes lost one on that last play. It's now 2nd and 11. The draw play with Overstreet. And he gets to the line of scrimmage and no further with 22 seconds left to play in this first half. And we now have a timeout called by the Ottawa Rough Riders, and we'll be back right after this.
Only the wind disturbs these homes now. The stories of those who lived here are lost in time. Now the ghosts of our past wander where our pioneer grandmothers once labored. She struggled to survive, season to season, from springtime to harvest, to the long winter and more hours to devote to warming chores. Their homes may be gone, but those who once lived here are part of our history.
Well, by stopping the clock with that timeout, the clock will not start now until the ball is kicked, so Ottawa could be in position to score before the half ends. Braisley takes it at the 47. And Braisley is down at the 38-yard line with 13 seconds remaining.
Down there, looks like they're going to be in field position again for another field goal. That time they put the rush on, hoping that they could get there and at least disrupt the punter to some degree. But I was a little bit concerned that they didn't put the return on and try to... They've been returning so well. Maybe they felt that with Rhino out of there, they didn't want to do that, though.
13 seconds left in the half, and up the middle goes quarterback J.C. Watts to the 31-yard line with 6 seconds left. And in comes the Ottawa field goal unit. I have to agree with you, Leo, that earlier the decision by the Montreal Alouettes to run that wide field goal attempt out of the end zone was a mistake. They made a similar mistake a week ago against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in trying to run a field goal out, and it cost them. It was recovered for a touchdown on the fumble. Oregon with the three-point try. It's wide. And now Dumars trying to get out of there, but doesn't make it. And that will end the first half, and the Ottawa Rough Riders will go to the dressing room leading by 7. The halftime score at Olympic Stadium in Montreal, Ottawa 14, Montreal 7.
The remarkable Philishave with the lift and cut system. 45 rotary action blades, every one of which has a unique lifter that gently lifts the hair, allowing the cutter behind to shave it closer. The result is a new closeness you can actually feel with your fingertips. Philishave from Phillips. Now you don't have to get wet. Get close.
Firestone tires play a vital part in developing Canada's energy resources. Our role in energy conservation is just as important. The 721 Fuel Fighter, a steel-belted radial tire that's lean on gas and long on mileage. The new 721 Fuel Fighter from Firestone.
At Canadian Pacific, we've been navigating around the world for a long time. But during the Second World War, we helped airmen of the Commonwealth Air Training Plan find their way around. With the RCAF, we operated 6 schools training air navigators. And the 3/4 of all those trained in Canada during the war graduated from these schools.
Today is Canadian Pacific.
We're proud of yesterday, but we're planning for tomorrow.
The best and the worst of the Eastern Conference yesterday in Toronto. It was only 4-2 Hamilton after the first half. However, in the third quarter, Tom Clements hits Rocky DiPietro to gain 21 yards. Hamilton, 333 yards passing, but only 20 yards rushing. Clements comes back to DiPietro for the touchdown, 11-2 Hamilton. Now, still in the third quarter, Condrich Holloway passing to Canadian John Carinci. First down, Toronto, as Jan Carinci makes the reception at 12:36 of the third quarter. Holloway hits Martin Cox for the touchdown. Argos trailed 11-9. They did look respectable on those 2 plays, but other than that, their offense was practically non-existent. Watch this punt return by number 1, Keith Baker. Baker coming back to show Argonaut President Ralph Sazio that Sazio, when running Hamilton, certainly knew what he was doing. And he acquired Baker from Montreal for only the rights to Vince Ferragamo. The return sets up the field goal, 14-9 Hamilton. Midway through the fourth quarter, Tom Clements to Baker. This puts it away for Hamilton, but Coach Frank Cush is still very much concerned. Hamilton has not been sharp in recent games. They now have time off to await the Eastern Final. Unbelievably, the Argonauts, 2 wins, 14 losses, were still alive in the playoff race. Meanwhile, in the swimming pool at Empire Stadium, the Saskatchewan Roughriders would miss the playoffs despite a record of 9-7. In the first quarter, Joe Pow to Tyrone Gray. The gain 40 yards. Pow and Gray, they needed water skis. Here's the field goal by Pasaglia. 3-0 British Columbia. And now, a little bit of luck in the rain. Crawford tips the football. Colbert makes the reception. The game 32 yards. Saskatchewan and Watson 16-yarder tie the game at 3. And no, those are not embarrassed Argonaut fans. It was Halloween. Saskatchewan with a 5-4 lead as Pasaglia punts for BC late in the fourth quarter. It looked like Faragelli and the Riders would complete the Cinderella season by making the playoffs. And BC would be out after being 7-1 early in the season. It was not to be. Late in the game, the Rough Riders fumble the football. BC takes over at the 2-yard line. Joe Barnes trying to get it to Edwards. Saskatchewan never really had control. Larry Key goes in for the touchdown after the fumble recovery. Vic Rapp and the BC Lions managed to halt their late season slide. They advance against Winnipeg. For the amazing Rough Riders and Joe Faragelli, nothing to be ashamed of. They can walk proud after a great comeback in 1981. Week number 17 in the CFL.
Spend a little time with Sanyo, and you'll have the time of your life. It's a big sound that goes a long way. It's never missing your favorite play.
It's a meal prepared while you're away.
It's enjoying sports in a big way. Spend a little time with Sanyo. Spend a little time of your life. 'Cause Sanyo makes life's good things better.
I'll try almost anything. So when Mattel Electronics asked me to compare their Intellivision games with Atari, I gave it a try. I compared Atari baseball with Intellivision and found Intellivision played much more like real baseball. Then I compared Atari football with Intellivision. Again, Intellivision played more like the real game. In my opinion, if you try them both, there's only one conclusion you can come to. Intellivision from Mattel Electronics.
Crazy glue, strong enough to hold this man suspended in midair. Bonds almost anything. A plastic knob, a plastic plug, a rubber boot, a metal brooch, a fishing rod, a cycle grip, model planes and model trains, a doorknob screw, a flashlight case, the broken trim on any car. Now Crazy Glue also comes in this retractable tip pen. Just press to apply. Only one drop of glue comes out at a time. No drips, no clogs, always ready to be used again. Quickly bonds almost anything without any mixing or mess. Get a Crazy Glue pen and a tube of regular instant Crazy Glue today. Sold everywhere.
Well, the score is 14-7 at the halftime, and it's been a good first half, but Montreal have made a couple of mistakes that got them in trouble here. We've got some good highlights for you, and starting off right now with the highlights, you see Johnson handing off here to De La Salle, and he goes off tackle. There's a good block down there by number 18. A tackle at the last minute right there. But La Salle is a kid that's a local boy from McGill University. He was their #1 protected choice. And Coach Eddie thinks he's going to do a good job for them. Now this is the Overstreet touchdown. It's a power formation. They come to an unbalanced line, and look at the leg drive by Overstreet as he goes into the end zone. And one thing you'll notice this week and last week by Overstreet is he's hugging that ball as he's going into that end zone. No fumbles for him. Watts goes back, and now he's been showing an awful lot of poise this first half of this football game for a guy that just started a couple football games. He gets the ball right in the hole there to Kirk. Kirk jerks away from the tackle there, slides off the tackle and makes some yardage, and is running in the open field and doing a very good job. This guy is elusive. If you don't get him and hold him, he's going to break away, and he could go the distance with that great speed. Now down on the goal line, it's the action pass that I talked about. They faked the running play in there. The linebacker came on the outside and opened it up for Reed. He catches the ball and goes in untouched for the touchdown. Now Johnson's back. Mike Raines gets that hand up in the air, that big hand up in the air, and Bruin is laying on his back, not in a great interception position, but he does make the interception, and he always heads up and does a real good job. Now you're going to see on this punt return here what Randy Rhino is famous for. Gets the ball off, and you can see the Montreal team setting it up to the left, and he goes to his left here on the punt return, outruns the first penetration there, hits the seam, and goes down the outside there. And somewhere in this run, it may have been when he made one of these quick cuts, he pulled that hamstring muscle, and he was out for the rest of the first half, and if they lose him for the second half, it'll be a real loss for them.
Well, the 100 points that Randy Rhino had picked up so far in the ball game on punt returns had moved him past Paul Bennett of Winnipeg as the leader in the punt return department in the CFL. And there's no doubt that he will hurt the Ottawa Rough Riders if he's out. And I'm sure they're also thinking about next Sunday's game in that Eastern semifinals.
Well, you can't teach a guy to do what Randy Rhino does. He's got an instinct about running that football on punt returns and kickoff returns. And the best way to do it is to catch the ball and just start at one of those defenders as fast as you can go and make that one quick move and make it or break it. And a lot of times with Randy Rhino, he makes the break and gets into the open, and then he's good at running against the grain. As the defense starts pursuing, he'll go against the grain and find those openings. And boy, I'll tell you, he can get the job done.
The Ottawa Rough Riders, Leo, so far in the ball game have done an excellent job of defending on the two outside people, Scott and Johnson. Montreal so far hasn't gone inside with their passing attack.
Yeah, I've been a little bit surprised about that too, because Eddie told us yesterday that if they went to the double on the outside and put a lot of pressure on his outside guys, he was going right away to Della Riva and McCann on the inside, and that these people read the defenses real well, and he thought he could have a lot of success doing that, but he hasn't done it up until this point.
What adjustments will they have to make at halftime apart from that?
Well, I think the big thing they've got to do is just go in there and forget about making any mistakes the second half. Don't let anything bother them that bothered them the first half, and come out there with the confidence that they can win. This Ottawa football team dumbfounds me year in and year out. They just get up for ball games that they have to win, and George does such a sensational job with it, and Ottawa's just tough to beat.
Well, it's 14-7 at halftime at Olympic Stadium. The Ottawa Rough Riders leading the Montreal Alouettes, and we'll continue with our halftime show right after this.
KTEL presents Charlie Pride.
Hi, I'm Charlie Pride, and here's my brand new album entitled Charlie Pride Goes.
It's the happiness of having you that makes my world a place worth
This is the one that started it all.
In a Mississippi cotton-picking delta town. Oh, I hope you're feeling me like I'm feeling you. Help me make it through the night.
I've included Mansion on the Hill, We Could, Then Who Am I, and a whole bunch of others you're going to enjoy.
You win again.
This was a #1 hit for me.
More to me than anything else I've ever known. I'm having daydreams about night things. I've got a whole lot of things to sing about.
This is one of the best albums I've ever done.
Part of KTEL's Sound Celebration, Charlie Pride Gold. It's in stores now.
Firestone Traction. It's why our name gets around in snow-covered forests and on snow-covered roads. Traction designed for Canadian winters. Snowbiter from Firestone.
A touchdown by Jim Reed. 2 field goals, a single and a convert by Jerry Organ have accounted for the Ottawa scoring as the Rough Riders lead by 7. The only touchdown for the Montreal Alouettes by David Overstreet, and it was converted by Don Sweet. Statistically, in the first half, this is the way things look. The Ottawa Rough Riders with an edge, as they have, on the throwing arm of J.C. Watts, completed 11 of 17 pass attempts, while Ken Johnson has had problems, hitting on only 8 of 17. Rushing, Montreal with Overstreet running with the football 55 yards this afternoon. And David Overstreet is the 3rd leading runner in the CFL. The leading passers, of course, led by Dieter Brock of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And this afternoon, he will be attempting to erase Sam Echeverry's mark of most yards in a single season when Winnipeg squares off against the Calgary Stampeders. I mentioned Overstreet, the 3rd leading rusher. He now has 881 yards. He is 3rd behind Larry Key of BC and James Sykes of Calgary. And Overstreet in this ball game this afternoon getting a lot of work as both a runner and a receiver and hanging on to the football.
I think, Don, that he's finally coming into his own and doing what they want him to do. He catches the ball extremely well. He runs with it, and he goes after that extra yardage, showing that he's got a real good personality as far as the running back is concerned. And he's coachable because he was holding that ball out loose. Maybe he did that in college, but right now he's holding that ball in real tight, and he's trying to preserve it, and that's a good sign.
A quick comment about Tom Cousineau. How do you think he's finding it out there?
I've been watching him, and he looks like he's in shape and ready to play.
All right, we'll return with the second half of this afternoon's football game. The Ottawa Rough Riders leading the Montreal Alouettes by 7 points.
Chevy makes good things happen, and good things happen. Driving Chevrolet, for fun on the run, for value it's the one, for all kinds of people, Chevy is the one. Yeah, it's your kind of people, with just your kind of drive, for all kinds of people, it's a Chevy come alive. Value and performance, feeling kind of nice, with your kind of power, at just your kind of price. Yes, good things happen to families big or small, with a Chevy in your driveway, you know you've got it all. With solid style and comfort, built right for today. Good things start to happen, enjoying Chevrolet. Turn on down that highway, it's a Chevy day today. Cause for all kinds of people, Chevy makes it happen, makes good things happen with Chevrolet.
Canada, the only nation in history to have a policeman as a national symbol. But a former Mountie decides to tell all the symbol is tarnished. And a civil servant takes over the security of a nation. On Guard for Thee, Part 3, Shadows of a Horseman. Sunday at 10:30 in Newfoundland on CBC.
Well, I'm sure the Toronto Argonauts are looking in this afternoon, and they're not quite certain whether they should pack in preparation for a semifinal date in Ottawa next Sunday or pack their gear away for the 1981 season. If the Ottawa Rough Riders prevail and win this football game, they will entertain Toronto next Sunday. However, a win or a tie this afternoon for the Montreal Alouettes will move them into the semifinal game. Trevor Kennard of Winnipeg has locked up the CFL scoring championship for 1981. He has this game this afternoon against Calgary remaining, and already has a 2-point edge on Dave Cutler of the Edmonton Eskimos. Bernie Ruoff, Bisaglia have completed their seasons, and it would require an unbelievable performance from J.T. Hay, who still has a game remaining, to move past Trevor Kennard of Winnipeg. Jerry Organ, you caught a glimpse of him walking onto the field for a meeting with the officials prior to the start of the second half of this afternoon's game, looking for a career best as far as receptions are concerned. He has 2 catches, giving him 71 for the year. In 1976, he had his previous best year. That was when he caught 72. And Gabriel, of course, has extended his consecutive game catching string to 137. There were some suggestions earlier in the year, Leo, that Gabriel might decide to pack it in, but with the season he had, I think he'll be wearing an Ottawa uniform again next year.
Well, George Brancato, I talked to him about that last night, Don, and I think he's under the impression that Gabriel's going to quit after this year. And, you know, nothing would please Georgie any more than to have that Gabriel show up again, because he still looks like the kid that came out of Syracuse University a long time ago. He's as gangly as ever. He catches everything thrown near him, and he's still got that persistence when he catches the ball to try to break away. He's just been a great asset to not only Ottawa, but all of Canadian football.
And Tony Gabriel, of course, 5 times has engraved his name upon a Shenley Award. The second ballot in the Shenley Awards to narrow the field to the top 5, East and West, will be coming out next week, and then the ultimate winners will be determined during Grey Cup week here in Montreal. Jerry Organ preparing to kick off to start this second half. David Overstreet deep in the middle for the Alouettes. However, the kick goes to the left side to Mark Lasalle. Lasalle trying to go up the middle. I think he ran into one of his own men, Nick Araki. He bounced off him and into the arms of an Ottawa defender, and it will be 1st and 10 for the Alouettes. They are at their own 27-yard line. Well, Leo, I'll be interested to see if Jim Eddy has made some adjustments. We talked about it briefly at halftime about their inability to hit the outside receivers because of the coverage, whether they will now work inside.
Well, I think they've got to hit the outside receivers on short passes, Don, and I think that, as you say, they've got to throw inside into the holes. And I'm surprised if they don't start right here in the third quarter and throw the ball on first down some. They start out with a run right there, Overstreet off tackle.
William Mitchell made the tackle.
Right, but they've got to start throwing on first down, too. But the one thing that they can't think about right now, the score is only 14-7, and they can't think about, Holy Ghost in it and throwing those long passes. They've got to stay in there and know that they've still got 2 full quarters of football to play and just work that ball down, play for field position, and get their field goals when they can and try to score when they can, because there's a lot of playing time left in this game.
Second and just a little over a yard for the Alouettes. Overstreet again, and he spins up to about the 43. That should be a Montreal first down. Ken Johnson keeps looking over to that Montreal bench. It would almost seem as though he's getting a lot of help, Leo, in his play selection from the coaching staff.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising, too, because, he's a veteran, and he at this stage should be able to call his game pretty well. But with that defense that Ottawa is posing for them, that's a very complicated defense. Maybe he could use a little bit of help from the coaching staff.
First down, the swing pass to Overstreet, nowhere to go. Montreal picked up maybe a yard. Ottawa was really prepared for that one.
They're dropping a lot of people back in there, and when he goes back there, all he can see is white jerseys in that secondary, and it must be pretty discouraging for him. I asked Jim Eddy before the game if he had a screen up the middle, because when they come with that 4-man rush and drop all those people back, if he takes some time and gets it up the middle, there's a chance that he can break that thing loose, and he said that he does have one. We'll see if he's going to use it.
A big second down play right here for the Alouettes. Incomplete, intended for Johnson. He was being covered by Sutton. Pressure came from Doug Seymour, and it almost appeared as though Johnson was throwing that one away.
Well, it was an afterthought that he threw the ball. Here he goes back here, and this is a dangerous thing to do. He gets himself set up. Looks like he's going to release the ball right here and then holds on to it and then throws it as an afterthought. Now, you haven't got enough power on that ball to get it where you want to get it, and that's how interceptions happen.
Carl Brazeley has replaced Randy Rhino on the punt return unit for Ottawa. Good kick by Don Sweet. Brazeley at his own 27. They're trying to set up the return, but he went back to his own 24, and he was brought down by Al Dosan. 12:02 is the time remaining in quarter 3. It will be Ottawa's first down when we return.
With Firestone tires on your car, you benefit from a world of experience. Experience in engineering radial tires that deliver long, low-cost, fuel-saving mileage. Tires with dependable strength and stamina that comes from advanced design and careful quality control. Tires that meet the needs of the 80s. From Firestone.
In 1885, building the railway was just a beginning for us, the Canadian Pacific. The line ran through a great lone wilderness in the west, and along with the government, we took on the task of settling it. By 1923, almost 3 million newcomers had arrived, and we at Canadian Pacific had spent $68 million on the promotion of immigration and settlement.
Today's Canadian Pacific.
We're proud of yesterday, but we're planning for tomorrow.
This is the last weekend of regular season action. Playoff activity gets underway next Sunday. Ottawa will host the Eastern semifinal at 1 o'clock. Tickets are currently on sale at all regular outlets. And next Sunday, Winnipeg will play host to the Western semifinal, entertaining the BC Lions, and we remind all Winnipeggers looking in this afternoon that tickets are on sale for that. And the pass intercepted by Cornelius. He goes out of bounds at the 25. Well, the Alouettes get back into the game with excellent field position here in the third quarter, and Calvin Kirk, I think, was the intended receiver downfield.
Oh, it was a strict case of not seeing the defensive coverage that time. He saw the inside man. When the guy broke out, he didn't see the outside guy, and he just threw it right into danger. George Brancato was over there, just aged about 5 years on that one.
First and 10, Montreal. They are at the 26 of the Ottawa Rough Riders. Johnson setting up the screen to Overstreet. Overstreet is going to score. Some excellent blocking for David Overstreet on the 26-yard screen. Bill Norton is the man who knocked one defender down. And with the point after try, we could have a tie.
Here's the screen. Good call out here. He shoves it out there to Overstreet. Bill Norton makes a good kick-out block right there. And he hits the seam up in there, stays on his feet, keeps his balance, and goes into the end zone. Just an absolute great screen.
The second touchdown of the afternoon by David Overstreet. The point after try by Don Sweet. And the game is tied at 14 with 11:15 left in this third quarter. Let's take another look at that screen pass to Overstreet.
Johnson sets it up like an old veteran back here. He looks downfield and then gets it over to Overstreet. And you'll see Bill Norton come out right there and make the block. Overstreet, he blocked Sovieta that time. Overstreet busts through that seam right there and takes it into the end zone, keeping on his feet, and really does a great job. And something like that can really pick up a football team. We got a new ball game. It's 14-14.
Well, Overstreet has contributed better than 100 yards this afternoon to the Montreal cause, and he will undoubtedly be receiving consideration in the balloting for the Carling O'Keefe Game Stars. The offensive and defensive stars of the game will be chosen at the conclusion of this tussle. Calvin Kirk and Carl Brazeley are back for the kickoff. They're standing at their own 5-yard line.
That screen is a play that you can run against that defense that Ottawa's got because they drop so many people back.
Calvin Kirk on the return. Trying to get outside, and Dumars was hanging on for dear life and finally got some help in pulling Kirk down. This Ottawa club has been doing a tremendous job on punt and kickoff returns. A run back of 35 yards that time by Calvin Kirk.
You know, in defense of the Alouettes, Don, normally when you see these things happen time after time, you got to think that the team is loafing going down there, but sometimes they're so intent to get down there and they're hustling so much that they overrun the coverage and they get caught, and as a result, the punt returner does break away and make these kind of returns.
Little swing pass to Sam Platt. He fumbles the ball, however, it went out of bounds. A pickup of a couple of yards, and it was Greg Butler who came up from his defensive half spot to make the tackle. Perhaps some words of advice there from Val Belcher to his quarterback, J.C. Watts. Second and 8. The ball is at the 41.5. Score is tied at 14 here in the third quarter. 10:32 is the time left to play. Watts in some trouble from Gary. Throws deep downfield. Calvin Kirk has got it. Well, Calvin Kirk has been a favorite target all afternoon of J.C. Watts, and he hauls in another one.
Well, I don't know whether Watts here is just all the time looking for Kirk or not. He evades one tackler right there and gets it down the middle, and it seems like Kirk is getting open all the time. And the amount of passes that young man has caught this afternoon, you'd think that the Alouettes would get on him a little tougher. He's been the big threat there this afternoon. You'd think that they'd get on him.
At the 32, it's 1st and 10, Ottawa. Tried to swing it out to Sam Platt, and Junior Ayu deflected the ball at the line of scrimmage.
I'm still a little bit surprised, Don. Early in the ball game, the Alouettes came after them with a couple of blitzes, and they were very effective. And I'm surprised with the youth core at the Ottawa quarterback position that the Alouettes don't come with more blitzes. I'm not suggesting they come all the time, but if you can get that guy back for a 6 or 8 yard loss and shake him up a little bit, it affects the way he plays.
It's picked off by the Alouettes, deflected in the hands of Steve Jelly. Dumars was the man who came over to knock it down, and he deflected it right into the hands of Steve Jelly. There's also a penalty flag in the play. I think there's going to be a clipping call against the Alouettes. It appeared to be intended for Tony Gabriel. Dumars came over and deflected it into the hands of Steve Jelly. Well, one pass interception by Cornelius earlier in this quarter led to a touchdown by Montreal. Let's listen to Bill Dell.
Offside pass by Montreal. First down at the point of occurrence.
Well, we correct ourselves. That was an offside pass deflected by Dumars into the hands of Jelly. And here's where it happened, intended for Gabriel.
There's the deflection right there, and it went, well, it didn't look like it went forward, but it apparently did go forward because they brought it back to the spot.
Well, most importantly, as far as Montreal is concerned, they have possession of the ball. And David Overstreet put his head down and challenged number 22, Glenn Cook.
Yeah, Overstreet is running like we said. This is probably his best game all year. I want to bring him any bad luck on the young man, but he hasn't fumbled the ball yet, and he's running with great balance and great determination to get those short yardage plays.
He had enough fumbles earlier in the first 15 games to make up for 3 or 4 seasons. He dropped the football 16 times in his first 15 games and lost 12 of them. However, you're absolutely right, Leo. He's been hanging onto that ball this afternoon, and he is looking like the David Overstreet the Montreal Alouettes anticipated he would when they lured him into their camp away from Miami. The measurement reveals that it's a first down Montreal on the 10-yard romp by Overstreet. Overstreet again. This time he's dropped right at the line of scrimmage. Rick Sovieta was there. So was Mike Raines. 8:26 is the time left to play in this third quarter with the score tied at 14. J.C. Watts has had 2 of his passes picked off in this third quarter. And undoubtedly, on that telephone, he's receiving some help from upstairs from the Ottawa spotting box.
Yeah, I just saw Dom Petro come out of there, and Ian Mofford came in.
Yes, the Montreal Alouettes are doing some shuffling of personnel, giving Johnson some help in calling the plays. Overstreet attempting to break the tackle, but was unable to shake the grasp of 2 Ottawa defenders over there on the 32-yard line. I think it was Carl Brazeley who had a grip on him.
I'll tell you, that end run had the makings of doing something pretty good. He was almost got in the seam there to break it, but Ottawa recovered pretty tough.
Kirk, number 3, Brazeley, number 7, are back. Fielded at the 33. This time, they drop it for a loss of about 1. A 44-yard kick, and and a loss of 1 on the attempted return. We'll return in just a moment.
Chevy makes good things happen.
Your kind of car, Chevy Cavalier.
With your kind of ride and just your kind of stride. For value and comfort, Chevy is the one.
Cavalier with state-of-the-art technology, 43 standard features, and front-wheel drive maneuverability.
Step into the good times. Chevy makes it happen. Good things happen with Chevrolet.
A reminder of the importance of this game as far as the Montreal Alouettes are concerned. They must win or tie to advance to the Eastern semifinal. A loss will mean that the Toronto Argonauts will face Ottawa next Sunday at Lansdowne Park. Oh, big pressure from Keith Gary, and J.C. Watts goes down back at his own 22-yard line.
George is sending somebody in here on his own now to bring a message in.
Gary Cook running into the ball game for Ottawa. Pat Stokwa is going out as a wide receiver.
What do you do when it's 2nd down and 20 to go or something like that? Unless he's going to throw a screen pass, I don't know what he does.
Avery goes wide to the left. Calvin Kirk out to the right. 2nd and 20 for the Ottawa Rough Riders. Watts throwing deep for Avery. It's knocked away. Good defensive play by the Montreal Alouettes. That was Butler who came up to knock the ball right out of Avery's hands. He had gone high to make a catch, and Butler simply came up and drilled it out of his hands.
I'll tell you won't see a better defensive play by a secondary man here any place, anytime. He went up and just like a basketball player, knocked it right out of his hands without making contact, and that was a super play. I've heard of guys stripping people with the ball in their hand, but I never saw anybody knock it out that clean.
Jerry Organ stands back at his own 7. 6:11 the time left in this third quarter. Johnson and Dumars are back for the 3rd down kick. White Shoes will take it at the 42. Montreal has got a return here. To the 35 of the Ottawa Rough Riders goes Billy White Shoes Johnson. A 46-yard kick to 33-yard run back.
Gets the ball and starts like he's going to make a return on the left and just darts right in through there and starts down the field. Now, you'll see him do something here that's a little dangerous. He jumps up in the air, and when he does, that ball comes out in the open like that. I mean, you got to be careful that that's not knocked loose on a play like that.
Brazeley and Glassford were the men who finally stopped Johnson at the 35 of Ottawa. Mark LaSalle is going to lose a couple of yards, caught by Doug Seymour, the defensive tackle.
See, now they got 2nd down now and about 12 yards to go. 1st down at this stage of the ball game after that kind of a play would have been a good place for a play-action pass or a screen. They went to LaSalle, who doesn't have the speed of an Overstreet, and gave him the ball, and as a result, they took that little loss in there. But I've been impressed with LaSalle. Got good balance, and when he gets the opportunity, he does something with the ball.
Well, he played his collegiate football at McGill. He was Montreal's #1 protected player. 2nd down, the home run throw intended for Vetro way over his head.
There's Starkey on the sidelines warming up for Ottawa, and you know, Watson's been playing pretty well, but George was pretty lucky a couple weeks ago when he put Starkey in the middle of a game against Calgary, and it worked out fine, so he might be taking another shot at it.
Well, I know you told him he was lucky last night, and he replied, great strategy, inserting Kevin Starkey into the game against the Calgary Stampeders to replace J.C. Watts. And Starkey was able to hit on a couple of passes that enabled Ottawa to knock off the Stampeders. A field goal try from 44 yards out by Don Sweet. It's long enough. It's good. And now with 4:27 left in the third quarter. The Montreal Alouettes lead 17-14. And I wonder what Tommy Hudspeth, Ralph Sazio, and the Toronto Argonauts are thinking at this juncture of the ball game.
Well, they've been around the game a long time, and they know that there's just, you got 15 minutes left in that fourth quarter and almost 5 minutes left now, so that's plenty of time to change the game around about 3 or 4 different times. But the Alouettes right now, it's funny, they started the ball game, they scored first, they had the momentum, then Ottawa stole it from them in that second quarter and went ahead against them. Now they're starting the third quarter the same way. The Alouettes have the momentum again, and we'll see whether they can retain it or not, because this is where it all counts right now.
The Montreal Alouettes will kick off after that field goal success of Don Sweets, and Carl Graisley and Sam Platt are back. 4:27 is the time left in this third quarter. 17-14 is the score in favor of the Alouettes. Platt and Graisley ran into each other. Platt finally gets the ball and runs it back to the 34-yard line. So they actually lost a yard in that one, because had they scrimmaged at the 35, they would have been a yard further downfield.
Incidentally, Watts is back in the ball game. Starkey was warming up there for a bit. George has thought he's going to let this guy go a little while longer, I guess.
Well, I think unless Watts gets things going here, we might see Kevin Starkey on the next series. Watts is going to run with the ball. He gets a couple of blocks, and he's going to get a first down. And Tom Cousineau almost decapitated him in making the tackle.
I saw Cousineau almost try to rip. We're going to see it back here again, hopefully. No, we're not going to see that play. But I saw Cousineau try to rip his head off there and then pat him a little bit when he was getting up. Watts looked at him as much as to say, don't open your shirt, your heart will fall out.
Keith Gary catches J.C. Watts for a loss back at the 43. Doug Scott followed up on the play after Keith Gary made the initial force, and Kevin Starkey may be getting into this ball game in the next couple of minutes.
They got to do the same thing. If Starkey gets in there, they got to go after him right early and put some pressure on him, because these kids are still youngsters as far as quarterbacks are concerned in the CFL. The only thing that will really shake them up is a lot of pressure.
Second down from the 40. Pressure again. He was able to swing it out to Jim Reed. And Reed is down at the 42. So Ottawa is forced into a punting situation, and we'll be back with the third down kick right after this.
In the late 1920s at Canadian Pacific, our name often looked like this in Northern Ontario. 3 R's stood for reading, writing, and arithmetic. For 40 years, with the Department of Education, we operated traveling classrooms to bring formal schooling to children in isolated communities. To them, there were 4 R's to education, and one of them was railway.
Today is Canadian Pacific.
We're proud of yesterday, but we're planning for tomorrow.
Football was originally called Whimpets and required heavy padding. But as men became sturdier through physical fitness, the name was changed to Fuss Bucket or Chemin de Fou. Players continue to exercise 3 times a week, developing their hearts and lungs, and with the addition of cheerleaders, the present-day game was born.
Participaction says none of this was true, except the part about fitness being good for you.
Back at Olympic Stadium, 2:37 left in the third quarter. Montreal leading Ottawa 17-14. George Brancato looking on intently as Jerry Organ lines up for this third down kick at his own 27.
The tide has turned a little bit, and the guy that's turning the tide to some extent is Tom Cousineau, who looks like he's getting stronger as he goes.
Billy Johnson on another return down the sidelines and out of bounds at the 52 of Ottawa. A 38-yard kick by Jerry Organ, and Billy Johnson on the return with a 28-yard run back.
Dumars is a personal interferer right here, runs right ahead of him. Doesn't look like he blocked too many people right here. They should have given him the ball.
Well, as Rhino excelled on punt returns in the first half for Ottawa, Johnson has taken over for Montreal in the second half. Johnson is going to run it for Montreal. He'll be very close to a first down at the 42.
Again, it bears out what Coach Eddie said yesterday, that this guy can tuck it away and run with it, and he ran with a little authority that time, enough to get the first down.
You think he really wanted to run with that when he dropped back?
No, he'd rather just take a pass on it any day.
Greg Marshall, Mitchell, and Seymour were all converging on Johnson when he wisely went down at the 41. It's a first down, Montreal. 1:22 is the time left in the third quarter. Over the middle for Peter Dallariva. Another Montreal first down at the 22, tackled by Larry Broom. Well, they had a day honoring Peter Dallariva a week ago. He'll retire at the end of the season, but he's still going to make contributions to Montreal's attack before this year is up.
You know, you can't help but get a feeling that you really like to see a guy like Dallariva catch the ball and make a big play. And same thing with Gabriel from Ottawa. They've made so many big plays, and they do so well that regardless who you're pulling for, you got to be pulling for them.
First and 10. Montreal at the Ottawa 20. Inside with David Overstreet. He breaks a couple of tackles. That will be another first down. Glenn Cook finally knocked Overstreet down and may have saved a touchdown.
Look at that Overstreet again, just evading tacklers, staying on his feet, and his balance is what's really exceptional today. He's been tackled by 3 or 4 people that he breaks through, and looks like he's going to go down and just stays on his feet.
The Alouettes have dominated offensively in this third quarter after trailing 14-7 at halftime.
Now Ian Mofford, there's Watts over on the sidelines. He's probably wondering what he has to do to get things going here. He can feel the tide shifting a little bit himself. But Ian Mofford just came in for the Alouettes with a play from the sidelines, and this is a critical play at this time. We'll see what they're going to do.
This is a reverse. Johnson is going to try and throw it. That's Billy Johnson, but he won't get a chance. He runs out of bounds at the 21-yard line. And that's the end of the third quarter. The big pressure there from Greg Marshall. And after 45 minutes of play, Montreal leads by 3.
Our Canadian farmers work hard to feed our nation's 24 million people. And from coast to coast, 1 in 4 of our Canadian workers are employed in agriculture and the food industries. Thanks to the skill of all these people, Canada is a world leader in agricultural production. The Government of Canada plays an important role. Agriculture Canada operates 43 research facilities across our country, invests millions of dollars to improve quality and ensure an adequate supply of food. So there are benefits for all of us, consumers and farmers alike. The Government of Canada works with the provinces, universities, private companies and farmers to help Canadians maintain the degree of excellence we have achieved in this vital industry. If you'd like to know more about this subject, write to us for free information. Brought to you by the Government of Canada.
Tuesday on the 5th estate, is it time to bring the Canadian peacekeepers home from Cyprus?
500 guys here away from their wives and girlfriends, turning them loose in Nicosia and those nice beaches down at Limassol with all those great blonde Swedish tourists.
Well, if all the blonde Swedish tourists are there, there's no discipline problem.
The UN peacekeeping force has lost its function. They are doing absolutely nothing. They are enjoying the sun and bathing.
That's the Fifth Estate, Tuesday at 8, 8:30 in Newfoundland, here on CBC.
Well, there's not much difference in terms of total offense. The Ottawa Rough Riders have had more success through the air. The Montreal Alouettes have moved it much better along the ground. Movement at the line of scrimmage. Johnson looking for a free one. Stop. Touchdown.
I believe that the Alouettes were offside, Don. I mean, that the Ottawa Rough Riders were offside, I meant.
Well, Johnson had a free one there, and he took full advantage.
Yeah, sometimes that'll happen, too. When somebody jumps offside, the defense lets down and thinks that the play isn't going to count or something. It's an automatic reaction. And as a result, he went down, bent that pattern into the end zone and was wide open. Boy, he just run that post pattern in there and beat the coverage and caught it over his right shoulder. Beat Brazeley.
A big play for the Alouettes in this fourth quarter. Point after by Don Sweet. And it's now a 10-point difference.
There, and he just makes the move on Brazeley and just outruns him to the inside. See how he keeps running until he gets that ball in his hands and just catches it in there for the post pattern for the touchdown. And he's a piece of work when he runs down that field, boy. He's under control, and he's got good eyes and excellent hands. He's a great receiver. What a pair they make. Scott on one side and Johnson on the other.
Well, the Alouettes trailed by 7 at halftime, and they now lead by 10. A big reception for James Scott. He's the leading receiver for the Alouettes. And that particular catch, in reflecting back on this 1981 season, may rank as one of his biggest. Because now the Montreal Alouettes, with 14:36 to go, have a leg up in the battle for third spot. And if they do finish third, a return engagement in the Eastern semifinal next Sunday at Lansdowne Park in Ottawa. Kirk and Brazeley are back on this kickoff return. It'll go out of bounds. No opportunity for a run back. They'll kick off again.
I don't know whatever happened to the squib kick, not exactly the squib, but the kick on the ground, where you just scoot it down there, Don, and just keep it away from those great punt returners and kickoff returners. But that time, they definitely tried to avert the two guys back there, and when you do that, time and time again, you kick the ball out of bounds, it's brought back, and you put yourself in an imposition. But if you kick the ball hard and kick it through those frontline defenders and on the ground, it gives you a chance to get down there, and they can't field it clean and bring it back for a big return.
Kevin Starkey keeping his hands warm on the sidelines, anticipating an opportunity perhaps to go in and call the signals for the Rough Riders in this fourth quarter. But first, Don Sweet has a kickoff function to perform.
There's what I'm talking about right there.
A driving kick into the arms of Jim Reed. And Reed fights his way out to the 47-yard line. And Kevin Starkey is coming into the ball game. J.C. Watts worked the first 3 quarters. And Kevin Starkey will call the shot for the Ottawa Rough Riders here in the fourth quarter.
And Jim Eddy says on the sidelines, I'll take that kickoff as long as they don't get it to one of those guys and they break it all the way. We'll play defense now.
Platt goes inside on the first Ottawa play to the 50-yard line. George Brancato, in talking last night about Kevin Starkey, said he's not afraid to throw the ball. Interceptions don't worry him. He'll fire it in there.
Well, he's going to get his chance right here because this is a passing down. Starkey's not loose, not warmed up yet, so he may hit one of the swing backs out of the backfield or hit short just to try to make the first down. I'd be surprised if he goes too deep not being warmed up.
Kirk goes wide right. Walker to the left. He's being chased by Gary. Now he throws deep. Gabriel's got it down at the 30-yard line. And for Tony Gabriel, that equals his most successful season, 1976, when he caught 72, his third catch of this afternoon. A big pass from Starkey to Gabriel for a gain of 30 yards.
He should have been caught here by Gary. Gary had two hands on him, but he got away, pulled away in here, and he threw the ball on the run. Could have very easily been intercepted here, but look at that Gabriel. Concentration, brought it in with one hand, and got themselves a first down.
And Tony Gabriel, 11 yards away from becoming the CFL's 14th 1,000-yard receiver this year. Gabriel again, and for Tony Gabriel, a new high, and he goes over 1,000 yards. A career best of 73 receptions in one season and 2 one-handed efforts by the Gabe. Well, that's Starkey. He came in against Calgary 2 weeks ago and did quite a job in the fourth quarter. We may see a repeat of those final quarter heroics on the part of the young Ottawa quarterback. Sam Platt fighting inside to the 9-yard line. Ayu and Jelly made the tackle on Platt. It's a pickup of about 3. It will be 2nd and 7. 12-17 is the time left in the ball game.
Well, George Brancato's got a penchant for making that move at the right time, it seems like, because this guy wasn't warm at all or wasn't loosened up, and he's come in and done a great job of getting him down there.
There it is, but Gabriel couldn't get to it. Gabriel was open. He was just overthrown by about a stride by quarterback Kevin Starkey, as Gabriel in the end zone had beaten Dave Dumars.
And it wasn't that he wasn't wide open. He made the break, and he had the outside open. All they had to do was just lay the ball in there, and the ball was overthrown a little bit. He may have felt that pressure coming because he took an awful shot from the backside that time.
Jerry Organ with a field goal attempt now from 17 yards out. It's wide. Organ's field goal try is wide, and Dumars steps out of the end zone for a single-point Ottawa. It's now 24-15. And we have 11 minutes and 35 seconds remaining in this ball game.
In the early days, when we ran the railway at Canadian Pacific, there was no doubt about it. It was a railway. Tracks and steam engines and freight cars. It was a railway, all right. And a darn good one, too. Well, time went on, and things progressed, of course. We developed new engines, new freight cars, new techniques. Well, that's progress. But now, look at this. Does that look like a railway? Look at that. Would you know that that's a railway? It's that new intermodal service. Domestic containers for trucks and trains. Slick as a whistle on one or t'other. Less handling, safer freight, door-to-door, more capacity, fuel savings, better service. You know, you young fellas at Canadian Pacific today are doing just fine.
Today's Canadian Pacific.
We're proud of yesterday.
But we're planning for tomorrow.
A variety of action next Saturday on CBC Sports Weekend. A report on the North American Karting Championships from Goodwood, Ontario, a Canadian mountaineering expedition in the Himalayas, and the Canadian Parachuting Championships from Claresholm, Alberta. That's all next Saturday on CBC Sports Weekend. 1st and 10, Montreal. They are at their own 35. Overstreet inside. He has very close to 10. About 9.5 for the Montreal running back. Tony Gabriel in the clear in the end zone on 3 consecutive passing attempts. Kevin Starkey went to him. He hauled in 2 one-handed stabs. He was unable to make the third as he was just overthrown.
And don't you know Tony wanted that ball in that third one, boy. He loves to score, and he was open, and he knew that if they just would have got the ball to him, it was a touchdown.
1,006 yards on the season for Gabriel. 9 yards in that run by Overstreet. Overstreet again for the first down as he penetrates to the 47, stopped by middle linebacker William Mitchell.
This is going to be a very significant part of the ball game right here, Don, this drive, because this drive is going to determine a lot of the field position in this fourth quarter. And if they can keep this ball and get it down there, and either come out with some points or kick Ottawa into trouble, they can establish what's going to happen in this fourth quarter to some degree.
Here's the home run throw for Scott. He couldn't catch it. Good defensive effort by Carl Brazeley. Brazeley got a hand up there to knock it down.
He's got him beat right here, and if the ball is led out there a little bit further, it's a touchdown, because there's no question it wasn't such a great defensive play as it was an underthrown ball. If the ball was thrown where it should have been thrown, it would have been a touchdown.
On the initial glimpse of that play, Leo, it looked as though Brazeley got a hand up there, but you're right. It was just a little underthrown, or Scott was gone. Second and 10 now from the 47. Overstreet again. Oh, is this fella running today?
And if we got a big decision here.
Sovieta and Mitchell made the tackle. Brancato's looking on, waiting to see what move Montreal makes. Jim Eddy is out on the field taking a closer look at the situation. Johnson, I think, wants to go for it. Eddy is waiting to see where the ball is being placed. Well, they're going to require a measurement to determine the exact distance that the Alouettes have to go for a first down.
Down on this play, the whole season could hinge on this call, on this play right here, and boy, it takes an awful lot of thought. If it's over a yard, they definitely should kick the ball. It looks to me like it might be over a yard.
Yards rushing this afternoon for David Overstreet, 942 on the season.
I want to see where they put the stakes down. It looks to me like, Don, like it's a little bit over a yard for a first down. And when you're winning this stage of the game, and field position is so important, I don't care if they make this or not, it's not a good call as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, it's going to be close. I think that Overstreet may have spun off a couple of tacklers for enough yardage.
I'll tell you, it was just a great determination run by Overstreet. He twisted at the last minute, and I think his shoulders got over that point of the first down, but it could have been short on the thing. Like I say, regardless of whether they made it or not,
they made it.
Look at that. That last turn there got him the first down. Just that last move in there. But Don, if they would have given up the ball right here at almost midfield at this stage of the game, it would have to be a bad call, and they never should have tried it. And, you know, there's so many things can happen when you go for the short yardage. A fumble, an offside, so many things that it just wasn't a good call.
Have you ever thought maybe that's why you're not coaching?
I had too many of those. I went for it.
James Scott, the intended receiver, he was overthrown. Penalty flag back at the line of scrimmage. I think it's going to be a holding call against Montreal. Let's listen to Bill Dell, the referee.
Holding number 41, Montreal is declined. Second down.
Glenn Keeble, the center, was charged with the holding infraction. And George Brancato instructed his troops to decline the penalty. They need the ball back with 8:36 remaining. So it'll be second and 10 now for the Alouettes. They are at the 52 of Ottawa.
A little screen pass here might be in order, or something down the middle, but keep it away from the sidelines and the out patterns, because this would be a bad place to have it picked off.
Movement at the line of scrimmage. Overstreet had to go back to get the football. Raines was in so quickly on quarterback Ken Johnson. It looks, however, as it's going to be an Ottawa offside. Raines missed the last game against the Calgary Stampeders as the result of an injury suffered against the Edmonton Eskimos. And Raines right now appears to be limping a little. He may have re-injured that knee in trying to break into the Montreal backfield.
You see him at the top of your screen here make his move. He must have seen something that he thought was movement.
So it's now 2nd and 5. The ball is at the 47 of Ottawa. Johnson throwing deep for Scott. He's got it. Down to the 3. He beat Carl Bravesley and made a tremendous catch down those sidelines. It looked as though he was overthrown, but he extended himself to catch it.
I'll tell you, this was a great concentration on the football and outrunning the defender right here. But the plaudits have to go to Johnson, who was under an awful lot of stress and got that ball out there and hung it up in the air and let this kid run under it. He takes it right down to the 3-yard line. Just an absolute sensational play at this stage of the game.
James Scott has made quite a contribution in the 4th quarter to the Montreal Alouette offense. A touchdown throw in the end zone. And a big grab to carry down to the 3-yard line. 1st and goal, Montreal. Touchdown, Peter Dalariva. The final game he'll ever play here in Olympic Stadium in a Montreal uniform. Peter Dalariva grabs the touchdown toss from quarterback Ken Johnson. That could very well put the icing on the cake as far as the Alouettes are concerned. Greg Marshall was shaken up on that touchdown throw.
It was one of those plays that they got down there. They've had a lot of success with the run down there. He comes in and looks like he's going to run, but just sprints out the opposite direction. Gets a one-on-one over here with Dalariva, and Dalariva's by himself and just cradles that ball and says, oh boy, finally I got one. And the old pros have been making their contribution today, Don. Dalariva and Gabriel.
The point after by Don Sweet. And it's now 31-15. The Montreal Alouettes leading the Ottawa Rough Riders.
Whatever I choose, I put it on my master. Wherever I can, I put it on my master. Whatever I need, I put it on my master. Master card is just fine. Anywhere, anytime, or whatever I'm after, I can't put it on my master.
Well, not a big crowd at all at the Big O this afternoon, but they are applauding the effort of the Alouettes.
And there's that touchdown again. He's rolling out to the right there. Look at Dalariva all by himself. And I'll tell you, when you get the ball in there to him, he doesn't drop it.
In 5 plays, the Alouettes moved 72 yards. The big play, that second down pass to James Scott. And with 6:42 remaining, it looks very much as though we're going to have a return engagement. Ottawa and Montreal next Sunday in the Eastern semifinal at Lansdowne Park.
Boy, that's getting in the hole right there.
The kick gets away from Bravesley. He's going to concede a single point. And it's now 32-15 as Don Sweet puts it into the end zone on the kickoff.
That 1 point there made it two converted touchdowns and a field goal ahead, too. But when they're that far back, I think it was pretty good judgment on their part to take the ball in a better position on the field. But, Don, it's really encouraging to see these fans, as little as there are out here today at the stadium, up on their feet and cheering for their football team for the first time this year, really.
Well, they haven't had a great deal to cheer about this year. However, the Montreal Alouettes, as we said at the start of the show, masters of their own destiny, and they have come through, it would appear. A long throw, picked off by Cornelius. Intended for Calvin Kirk, and Kevin Starkey has it plucked off by Charles Cornelius, his second interception of the afternoon.
I hate to be critical on a play like this when Cornelius made an interception here, but the ball is thrown deep, and if you watch Cornelius here, he waits for the ball to come down. And, you know, he should have probably gone back to the ball and got it in its highest flight position, because Kirk could have stepped in there behind him and made the reception. But fortunately for him, Kirk took his eyes off the ball for some reason, and he made the interception.
The second interception of the afternoon for Cornelius, his fourth of the season. Overstreet trying to get outside, and he is brought down at the 37-yard line by Larry Broom. An 8-yard run for David Overstreet. In the process, he lost his shoe. However, he has run for 110 yards this afternoon, and I'm sure he's going to get some work in the final 5:44 of this ball game. He needs about 50 yards to hit the 1,000-yard mark.
He's done a pretty good job on occasion, too. He's done an excellent job on occasion. Both guards, both the offensive guards for the Montreal Alouettes have done a good job. Bill Norton, an old Argo that I had over there, made a key block on that screen pass that Overstreet scored on, and Mangold has been doing a good job on the sweeps.
On second down, Overstreet again. He got up to the 40-yard line before he was driven back. I think they'll mark the ball at about the 40-yard line. Now a penalty flag flies as a bit of an altercation took place further downfield, and Overstreet is still having some difficulties with that footwear.
They're having a little altercation downfield is right, and the coaches are out on the field and telling the Alouettes, for Pete's sake, stop that fighting.
Unnecessary roughness, number 15, Ottawa.
The unnecessary roughness call goes against the Ottawa Rough Riders. Billy Hardy, number 15, was the man who was involved in a bit of a shoving and punching match with Glenn Keeble, the center.
You see Del Riva coming off the line of scrimmage here, blocking. He looks like he's got a little hold on there. The referee didn't see him, but he held him right down to the last minute. I think when maybe a late hit like that, hit right in there, may have precipitated that little altercation downfield. But at this stage of the game, all you can do by fighting back is blow an opportunity for a score or put your team in bad position as far as the offense is concerned.
Mitchell making the tackle on David Overstreet. They place the football at the 53 of Ottawa. It will be 2nd and 8. Well, the lone cheerleader standing up on top of the baseball dugout here at Olympic Stadium, exhorting the fans to encourage the Expos, the Alouettes, to bigger and better things, and they will try it here, but it's way overthrown. Ian Mofford was the only receiver anywhere close to that Ken Johnson pass, and he was about 10 yards away from it. There's also a penalty flag in the Montreal backfield.
Holding against the Alouettes is the indication from the Ottawa defensive people.
Holding number 65, Montreal, is declined.
Ron Singleton was guilty of the holding infraction with the incomplete pass. It's declined. Singleton, number 65. So it's now 3rd and 8, and the Montreal Alouettes will kick. Leo, in your experience as a coach, as you move into a playoff game against the same team you've just lost to, what kind of an effect does it have mentally?
Well, I'll tell you, it does something for the Montreal Alouettes because they have a reflection, and like I've said so often, that there's two things that you can depend on in football, and that's results as far as winning is concerned, and reflection if you do lose on something good that happens. And this is certainly a winning result, and they can reflect on it next week when things go bad. They can say, we beat this football team, we can beat them again. Conversely, as far as George Brancato's Ottawa team is concerned, they got to go in there with a lot more respect next week.
No run-back opportunity as Sweet angles it out of bounds. They'll mark it at the 17-yard line. Well, we remind you about the Fifth Estate on Tuesday night. The feature will be $1 million a year, providing upkeep for our 500 soldiers on the UN peacekeeping force in Cyprus. Eric Malling looks at the area where not a shot has been fired in 17 years. Is their presence necessary? A report on the Fifth Estate, Tuesday night on CBC television. Starkey fake to the right. He's going to run it. He'll get the first down and more out to the 34-yard line. Lou Claire was the man who finally brought him down. I think Jim Eddy, the head coach of the Montreal Alouettes, a little more relaxed right now than he was prior to the start of this game.
That booing that you hear, Don, is the one cheerleader that they had down there. The powers to be grabbed him and took him out of there, and the fans didn't like it.
Starkey to Reed. He fumbles the football. It's going to be ruled an incomplete pass. He never had control of it. And with 2:55 remaining in the football game, let's pause for this message.
I've lost my crown, my people, my fortune, but I can still look smart. And I do. In my smooth shirt from Aero. Look at this collar, perfection, and it's specially designed to stay perfect. I even get my exact sleeve length. What quality? Aero smooth, fit for a king at a price any ex-king can afford.
Aero smooth, white and plain colors, just under $20.
You don't have to give up a fortune to look smart.
He was as practical as any of us, but he hid it well. Behind a certain flair and style of living, even the car he drove, a 1982 Cutlass Supreme. An Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. To the casual observer, it was the epitome of style, offering no visible clue as to how practical the man who owned it really was. You see, he knew. Even today, there's still room to do it with style.
Next Sunday on CBC television, the CFL Eastern semifinal from Lansdowne Park in Ottawa. And it looks very much as though the Montreal Alouettes will take on the Ottawa Rough Riders to determine who will meet Hamilton in the final. That's the CFL Eastern semifinal next Sunday on the full CBC television network. Starkey is knocked down by Cousineau. It looked as though it was going to be intercepted by Cousineau as he stepped in front of the intended receiver, Pat Stokwa.
There's a guy that's played pretty well out there this afternoon. He's been out of there for a long time now, and he come back in there, and that's what I was saying before the ball game. I talked with him last week and took a good look at him up close. And he's a fine-looking athlete and the kind of a kid that doesn't get out of shape, and he's been going full speed out there this afternoon, looking like he's been practicing all along. I think he has probably been practicing in the last week or so, Don.
Third down punt by Jerry Organ. Billy Johnson has got it, and he goes down almost immediately at the 42. Rudy Phillips was down there to make the tackle. That was a kick of 35 yards by Jerry Organ. And on the return, Billy Johnson was able to muster just 2 yards. I think Tom Cousineau will be a rather weary individual when he hits the locker room after this game.
As we said before, if they stay on the field, Cousineau will run them down, and he showed that time and time again this afternoon. When backs had broken away from even defensive backs, Cousineau made the tackles on the sidelines. And you know, a guy with this kind of ability is really a bolster to a team that has been without him for so long, and psychologically getting him back in that ball game made all the difference in the world this afternoon.
Well, on that kickoff, or that punt, there was a rough play call assessed against the Ottawa Rough Riders. So Montreal now has a first down at the Ottawa 52. They give to Overstreet. Another penalty flag flies as Overstreet is tripped up at the 50-yard line. The Western semifinal also takes place next Sunday. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers will entertain the BC Lions in that one.
Holding number 61, Montreal declined.
The holding call against tackle Doug Payton is declined by Ottawa. It will be 2nd and 8. Well, the fans at Olympic Stadium reacting with the reappearance of their self-appointed cheerleader, who was escorted back to his seat a short while ago by some of the ushers. Here's a throw for Vetro. It's picked off by Carl Brazeley, and Brazeley is brought down at the 4-yard line. 2:03 is the time left. And mentioning that Western semifinal, Winnipeg and British Columbia, we remind all Winnipeggers that tickets will be on sale for that game.
Steps out of trouble right there and gets the ball downfield. He's a little bit off balance that time. Almost gets the ball where he wants to get it, but it's just a great play by Brazeley. Tips it up in the air and uses that old tip drill to advantage and gets under it. But field position, again, is the most important thing. 2 minutes and 3 seconds left in the ball game. They've got them down there on the 4-yard line. That's as good as a punt or better.
The pass was picked off by the Alouettes. Hampton. Intended for Gabriel, and Hampton goes out of bounds at the 6-yard line. William Hampton from his outside linebacking position, picking off the attempted pass by Kevin Starkey.
He's a happy guy on the sidelines, and so is his coach. They've all got a new reprieve on life over there, and they're very happy about it. They look up at that clock and they say, we're firing up ahead right now with 1:55 left, but they're not going to get us.
First and goal for the Alouettes. The ball is at the 6. Overstreet hit right at the line of scrimmage. Middle linebacker Bill Mitchell got in there. Larry Brune also came up to make the initial contact. Jim Eddy was an optimistic individual yesterday and today, and that optimism appeared to be well-founded. His team has played well.
On that short yardage situation, they're coming to what amounts to an unbalanced line, putting 4 offensive blockers on one side of the center, overshifting their defensive or their offensive backfield with their strength to that side, leading with the 2 backs in the backfield and then giving to the ball carrier right into that strength. But at that time, the Montreal Alouettes, or the Ottawa Rough Riders, I should say, met it with resistance and stopped them right on the line of scrimmage.
Offensive tackle Doug Payton was hurt on that last play. The University of Colorado graduate heading off to the Montreal bench. Mike Hamiluk will likely take his spot in the offensive line for the Owls. And the Owls are now heading for a semifinal date with the Ottawa Rough Riders next Sunday at Lansdowne Park. And you'll see that game on the CBC television network. It's now 2nd and goal from the 6 for Montreal. Montreal leading 32-15. The pitch to Overstreet. Trying to go wide, Billy Hardy wrestled him down at the 10-yard line. Actually, it looked, Leo, if he had cut inside, he could have scored.
That's exactly what I thought, Don. It looked like it, that he had a notion to cut it up inside there and just drop the shoulder and go for the touchdown. But instead of that, he strung it out to the outside. You'll see it right here. Right there now, if he turns up inside, he's got Bruin going against the action right there. And he probably could have beat Bruin if he turned it up inside and at least made some more yardage. But the farther he ran to the sidelines, the more it was strung out. As a result, it's third down.
And they are going for it. The Alouettes on 3rd and goal from the 10. Johnson for Dalariva, touchdown! But there is a penalty flag. Dalariva took, or I should say Johnson took quite a shot from Seymour just as he threw. Dalariva carried into the end zone, but there is a penalty flag.
Illegal interference, number 7, Ottawa, is declined.
The touchdown stands, and Peter Dalariva comes up with his second major of the afternoon, and what a way to go out if indeed this is his final game ever at Olympic Stadium.
Johnson again really uses some intestinal fortitude right here with a big rush on him at the last minute, throws the ball out. I don't think Peter saw the ball coming until he turned at the last minute, but it hit him right in the chest, and he just took that ball in, and he's a happy boy. This is the last game in front of the hometown crowd, that unless they go all the way.
The point after by Sweet. And the Montreal Alouettes now lead 39-15. There was an interference call on that touchdown pass.
You can see Brazeley holding Johnson coming across the middle right there. The referee was right there and saw it, threw the flag down. There's no question about it. And there's Peter Dalariva. Quiet, unassuming, coachable, one of the real fine people in football. And it's a great way for him to go out. And I'm sure even the Ottawa fans know that they have another chance now to get at this team and still get into the finals of the Eastern Division in the playoffs. I'm sure a lot of the Ottawa fans are happy for Peter Dalariva because he's been such an outstanding football player in the CFL. Last game at home and for a hometown crowd.
Well, in Montreal, they'd like to see him one more time, November 22nd to be exact. But for Peter Dalariva to suit up here in the Big O, the Alouettes would have to win next Sunday in Ottawa and then upset the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the Eastern Final.
I guess we can say it's the last home game then, Don. Be safe.
Brazeley from the 12-yard line. Out to the 41 with a minute and 7 seconds remaining in the ball game. (39-15). The Alouettes lead it. Ian Mofford was one of the defenders in there to make the tackle for the Alouettes. Well, the clock on that kickoff was at 1:07. And even after the kickoff return by Brazeley, it is still stuck at 1:07. So apparently there is a malfunction with the timing equipment at Olympic Stadium. And that's the reason for the delay, as referee Bill Dell has conferred with the officials on the sidelines. Less than a minute remaining in the football game. Tom Cousineau had that elbow problem that sidelined him for much of the season. And now he is removing that heavy bandage on that arm. The pass complete to Walker. A gain of about 9. It'll be second and about 1 for the Ottawa Rough Riders. Well, let's see where they place it. They mark it at the 51. It is a first down for Ottawa. The final seconds of this football game. And the Montreal Alouettes made no mistake in assuring a berth in the Eastern semifinal against Ottawa. Jim Reed with some running room, and another Ottawa first down, out of bounds at the 40. Gallop of 19 yards for Jim Reed. First and 10 Ottawa at the 40. And at this point in the ball game, Leo, I think Ottawa would dearly love to put a touchdown on the board just to give themselves some momentum for next week's playoff encounter.
Well, I'm sure you're right, Don, but I'm thinking on the other side of the field that Jim Eddy may be wishing that he saved a couple points for next week himself.
Walker making the catch for a gain of 9. It will be 2nd and 1. About 30 seconds remaining in the ball game. Timing equipment at Olympic Stadium not working in this final minute of the ball game. Starkey looking for Pat Stokwa. Pressure from Glenn Weir, and the veteran tackle hit the rookie Ottawa quarterback just as he threw.
Don, if my memory serves me correctly, I think that these same Montreal Alouettes are the only team in the East for several years that finished in 3rd place and went ahead and won the Grey Cup. So, you know, they've set one precedent already, and, you know, with the terrible season they've had up until this point, this would be a nice time to get on track and go ahead and do something big again.
This will also be the worst record ever for a 3rd place finisher. Bruce Walker with a first down for Ottawa at the 25-yard line. 1st and 10 Ottawa. 39-15 is the score with about 20 seconds left. Starkey throwing into the end zone, looking for Walker. It's knocked down by Cornelius. He came very close to his 3rd interception of the afternoon.
You can say that again, knocked down. It hit him right in the hands, and he knocked it down trying to catch it.
So it'll be 2nd and 10 at the 26-yard line. And there aren't many fans at Olympic Stadium this afternoon, as we said earlier in the telecast, but very few of them have left. They are savoring this Montreal Alouette triumph that has moved the Owls into the playoffs. Starkey over the middle, knocked away by Al Dosand. It was intended for Pat Stokwa.
I want to see this one if I can, coming across the middle there. It looked like to me like it was a pretty good play. This is the toughest thing in the world to try to interpret from a defensive point of view.
You called for it, Leo. You're going to get it.
The pass comes right down the middle here. And both men are going for the ball here. And he makes contact with the pass receiver, and so you could interpret that as pass defense, but boy, that's the most indiscriminate call in the whole world, because you tell your defensive backs to go through the man and get to the football, and then when they do something like that, if the referee just happens to be in the wrong position, he's going to call it on you every time.
Well, there was the interference call against Al Dosant, so it's 1st and goal from the 10. Into the end zone for Walker. He can't catch up with it. I'm not sure whether they've got, well, one more play. We're informed 5 seconds apparently is the time remaining. So it will be 2nd and goal from the 10. Kevin Starkey in trouble. He'll go down at the 12-yard line. Keith Gary was the man who applied the pressure again. And that's the ball game. The Alouettes defeat the Ottawa Rough Riders 39-15. And they'll meet again next Sunday afternoon in the CFL Eastern semifinal. And you'll see that game on the CBC television network. It was 14-7 at halftime for Ottawa. But in the second half, the Montreal Alouettes came back 10 points in the third quarter and 22 in the fourth. And what really began to turn things around in the third quarter of the ball game was the interception by Cornelius. On the very next play, Montreal scored.
Yeah, I think that's true. And another thing that really got their momentum up was De La Riva catching that first touchdown. And, you know, those players feel very strongly about De La Riva on that Alouette team. And I saw them when he made the second touchdown. They were all off the bench running after him. It was a great win for them this afternoon, Don.
Two former teammates in Calgary, Calvin Kirk and Ken Johnson, talking things over. A big ball game for David Overstreet. And he receives a congratulatory hug from his coach, Jim Eddy. So does Keith Gary. They made a major contribution offensively and defensively for the Montreal Alouettes this afternoon, and we'll return with our post-game show right after we pause for this message.
Everybody's participating.
Most people exercise their legs when they work out. I exercise my arms, but for everyone, regular exercise helps the heart and lungs, and that's good. That's participating.
1981 is the International Year for the Disabled. This is the perfect opportunity for all swimmers to enter into training programs. This is good for everyone. I myself participate in swimming 3 days a week.
Everybody's participating. It's becoming a way of acting.
I'm living and keeping my mind alive. So can you with regular exercise. It does as much for your head as it does for your heart. That's why I ski and high jump. It keeps me participating.
Everybody's participating. It's becoming a way of acting.
I've been a United Way volunteer for several years now, so I know about the wide range of services that really depend on United Way. Our seniors often require services like Meals on Wheels, visiting nurses, and transportation to help them live full and comfortable lives. United Way services even provide an opportunity for them to get out and meet new friends. We all feel good when we know our seniors are getting the help they need. And thanks to you, they're getting it. The United Way.
The search for fuel in the Arctic has been underway for many years. Who will protect the delicate balance of the Arctic's people and its environment? Will it mean the destruction of the North? These are two of the many issues naturalist John Livingston probes in Arctic Oil, a book based on a Nature of Things program. Arctic Oil is available in bookstores, or send $14.95 to CBC Merchandising, Box 500, Station A, Toronto, M5W 1E6.
Jim Eddy, congratulations on your victory this afternoon. You were optimistic coming into this ball game. It appears as though it was well-founded. The best ball game, perhaps, of the season for your team.
I don't think there's any question about it. We had a sluggish first half, but, you know, the thing I've been talking about this football team, as far as the pride and character and everything that exists in our locker room, I think was exhibited in the second half. I'm very proud of a football team that really hung in there and have kept the faith, and we've started to come together as a team. We're coming more and more competitive all the time. Our men have really worked hard, and I'm really proud of that fact.
Jim, I know that you're about the happiest guy in the stadium of all the people who are in here today. I know that you've gone through for the last several weeks out here. You've kept the faith with your team.
Right.
Now you can enjoy and go home tonight and relax a little bit, put your feet up, but you know that next week you got to go back over there. You got to play these guys again.
Exactly.
You have a little more confidence going in this second time now, don't you?
Well, certainly this is it's got to be a great confidence builder for us, but we're also realize the fact that, hey, look, it's sudden death playoff time, and Ottawa already had second place wrapped up coming in here, and certainly they will take a different posture in this sudden death playoff game coming up in their home park, and we can expect a real dogfight down there. It's going to be an emotion-packed football game, and I think one that the fans can really enjoy. But we're happy the way our team came back in the second half and hung in there, and it was a great team effort on both sides of the ball. Our special teams settled down in the second half, and we started covering better, and we came together, put some points on the board. I was really happy about that. It showed the pride and character that we have on this football team, and I think good things are going to be happening as far as our team is concerned in the future.
All right. Well, Jim Eddy, congratulations on your 39-15 victory. I know you're anxious to get into the locker room. We'll see you next week at Lansdowne Park in Ottawa.
Well, thank you, man.
The final score this afternoon, 39-15, and we've met the coach. Now let's meet the Carling O'Keefe Game Stars.
O'Keefe Sports Game Stars.
And the Game Stars offensively, no surprise, David Overstreet. Defensively, Keith Gary. David, congratulations on a fine performance this afternoon. Statistically, you ran for 114 yards. You caught passes for 62 more. A big afternoon.
Thank you very much. I felt like going to the game that I would have to have a complete ball game, you know, both running the ball and catching it. And Ottawa always presents a problem for us. And it was a big day for us because this was do or die situation. We played like desperate people, and I think today we played like champions. And I feel that it changed, it made all the bad things that happened for us this season. I think today really is turning around. It got us on the right track, and from here on out, I think it's a new season, and you will see the Montreal Alouettes that the fans have been looking for.
You look like a different ball club out there this afternoon, David. And from your standpoint, you know, there's been a lot of criticism directed at you earlier this year for the number of fumbles that you had, but in the last few games, you've been hanging on to that ball.
Well, I felt like it was necessary. You know, I felt bad. I was putting my team in a hole and not giving us that much of a chance, you know, to do some things offensively. And staying in the game, you know, was the key, too. You know, sometimes when you're behind by 30 and 40 points, you can't use your running game. And I think that's been the case today, that we got to use the running game and stay in it. And the offensive line came out super, and we just, you know, went out and played football and did the things necessary for us to win today.
All right, well, congratulations on being chosen our Carling O'Keefe Sports Offensive Game Star. That big fellow beside you, number 75, Keith Gary, was in that Ottawa backfield almost all afternoon. You had a big game too, Keith.
Yeah, we realized that J.C. Watts was a scrambler, and we knew we had to put a lot of pressure on him to cause a lot of things to happen. So the front four came off real well and kept pressuring him all day, and you see the way it turned out.
Well, Keith, it looks like both you guys are pretty at ease with those things on your head there. You look like you're both radio men. I know what you wanted to do early in that ball game. You wanted to get in there and put some pressure on those young quarterbacks, and that's what you did, and that's what you had to do in order to get those guys a little bit upset. And that was the turning point as far as I was concerned. And I saw you in there with a lot of penetration this afternoon, and certainly that's the best ball game you've played all year.
I think it is, too, and thank you.
You're welcome.
It has to be a confidence builder now, Keith, going into the semifinal.
Oh, it sure is. You know, even though we play the same team next week, I think we're going to come out strong and do a good job, and just look forward to things later on down the line.
All right, Keith Gary, who was chosen the defensive star of the game, David Overstreet, the offensive star of the game. Congratulations on your selection, on your 39-15 victory over the Ottawa Rough Riders. And the Montreal Alouettes now move on to the Eastern semifinal. That game will come your way next Sunday afternoon on the CBC television network from Lansdowne Park in Ottawa. Until then, Don Whitman for Leo Cahill saying good afternoon from Olympic Stadium in Montreal.
CFL 81 has been brought to you by Canadian Pacific, owned by Canadians, working for Canadians. By Firestone Canada, maker of the 721 Fuel Fighter Radio. And by KTEL International Limited.
This is CBC,